tonight's meeting's being broadcast by YouTube. It's been something we've been doing at the Board of Supervisors.
Yeah,
Something-
I noticed that.
Something but I did want to announce it to the public. We're streaming live on YouTube. And it's my position during public meetings, there's no expectation of privacy per se. So I just wanted to make that announcement, I thank you. That's audio and video, just so we're clear.
Fix your hair.
All right, call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Here,
Chris,
here,
Howard,
I'm here.
Anthony.
That's it.
Okay. Need a motion after that, but look at the last meeting, need a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Oh. Okay, Anthony, 1 minute late.
Take a look at the treasurer's report.
You know, in looking at the report here, the accounts are labeled as required in the lease agreement.
How should that be labeled?
If you look at the lease agreement, it'll tell you which ones go where. And they should be labeled as such.
Yeah, that can be taken care of.
That's just an administrative thing.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments?
I'll make a motion to accept it.
Second.
All in
Is that
favor?
Pat?
Pat,
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Sewer agent report.
I don't.
We are working through it.
I would say, I can't follow this thing.
Okay.
I mean, 30 days, there's nobody 30 days late,
Correct.
and there's nobody 90 days late. But we got people 60 and 120 days. So, how's this gonna work? You know,
I would like to see it.
somehow or another, it shouldn't be there. Well, you get your sewer bill, and
Right.
you have 90 days to pay it.
Correct.
So then, if they haven't paid it in 90 days, you pay the 90 days, and then
See
you
what
have
you're
120, and, you know, et cetera, so
Yeah.
that, you know, because I don't know how you'd be 30 days late if it's not due for,
I think they're talking about they're 60 days past the last one is what I think they're trying to say here, but we'll get that.
okay, that's fine. And the other thing is there's still people not showing up on this list that I'm 99% sure that are delinquent.
All right, can you do me a favor? Can you stop by and give me who you think should be on here? Because I know that Deborah's actually looked at this list a couple of times, and we've also tried to update the ownership of the properties in regard there too as well, which you
Well,
pointed out, so.
you were gonna give us that reissue this list of the liens
Okay,
from last month, because that sticker in front of it, and we couldn't read some of them.
yes. All right, we'll take care of that as well. I thought that had been said.
Gentlemen, I think the Board of Supervisors takes some responsibility with
Right.
respect to filing those liens and in the sense of collection. And this has been a situation that's been, in the last 2 years that I'm in office, growing worse.
Right.
We're not getting better.
We're not getting any, your hands are almost tied as far as collecting that.
Well,
I know they did pass an ordinance that if you're delinquent in any of your bills with the township, you cannot obtain any permits until they're satisfied.
yeah, that's not exactly what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the administrative end of things, frankly, is a disaster. It's a disaster. There's no other way to put this.
Well, they used to have all the delinquents on this
To
report.
include the liens.
And then it was changed, with the previous township manager. And
Say that again, I didn't hear the last part.
the previous township manager,
Mr. Orwood,
yes,
right.
that changed. They changed that, and, since then, we haven't had any, reports on liens, which I know that the township solicitor is, I guess, is in charge of that, or they have somebody. So we don't have a list of who is lien, who's potentially going to get lien.
So what would we like to have, so that I can set the procedures for that and have it in here, the way you'd like to see it?
Well, I don't know if you want to add them all, but if you have a separate report on the liens,
I think we like to see the liens, and I don't know if we have to see it every month, but at least quarterly, don't you think, Tom?
sure.
And the delinquents, that just needs to be cleaned up, because I'm pretty sure there's a lot more than what we're seeing here.
Alright, yeah, it'd be helpful if you could stop by and kind of cross-level that list and see where there might be disconnects, because you have resident knowledge on that, would be much appreciated.
Motion to accept this.
I'll make a motion, we accept the report.
Need a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, citizens' concerns. I
And
know
My name is Nan Reinert. I live at 1345 Old River Road. Right now, my basement is full of sewage because of your negligence. I am fed up with this. I call my insurance company, they cannot clean it because it's not fixed. Every time it rains, I get sewage in my basement. I call a plumber out. It's gonna cost $3,000 to get a valve put in my basement to stop it from backing into my basement. That ain't right. I've been here 20-some years. This has never happened. You have a pump station where you had to replace the pump twice. Twice! I mean, did we not see this coming? Did we not see there was an issue about to happen? It's not right. And I should not have to put 1 penny out of my pocket for what's happening at my home.
did we replace the pump stations because of failure, or did we replace them because of upgrades?
Both. Both, a combination.
My plumber has stated that they're having the same problem in Municipal Township. They were able to obtain a grant where they would give the community members close to $3,000 to get this valve put in their home. I don't think I should have to put 1 penny out of my home and out of my pocket. Another thing is, I want that sewage out of my basement yesterday, and I cannot do anything about it. Now, I understand, and I try to be a really reasonable person, and people here know me, I'm pretty reasonable. I understand that the second I came to the township, I was out there the next day, you're sending cameras down, I saw the dude with the cameras, I went out and talked to him. But standing here, I have sewage in my basement. I have, number one, issues with cleanliness, and number two, this is a health issue. And I've lost things in my basement, things that cost money, that are gonna have to be replaced. That is not my fault, my insurance shouldn't have to pay for that. This is something the township should be paying for, or the sewer department, or whoever. I know you got some kind of connection and how that works, this and that. Because I learned a lot about this when I came down to the township, and I came flying down to the township the day it was in my basement. This is not right. I wanna know what's being done about it. I wanna know how I'm gonna be compensated for this, and how my basement is gonna be taken care of. That's what I wanna know.
I can chime in if you'd like. First of all, this authority leases the lines to the township. So the township's responsible for everything that goes on in those lines. We'll be glad to get you the answers. We have an engineer here, and be glad to help provide that. But whatever you want cleaned up, you have to go to the township for, because they're required by our agreement to carry the insurance for them.
Okay. I came to the township meeting, you know I did because you know my name because of it. There's people here sitting here, everyone here knows I came to that township meeting, and I was told to come to this meeting.
I know.
I worked 12 hours today. The last thing I wanted to do when I left work is drive up here and come here and discuss shit in my basement, literally. So, who is it? Is it the right hand, the left hand? Who's gonna take care of my basement?
We'll figure that out before we leave here tonight.
I appreciate that, I really do. Thank you very much.
We've been, like you said, you've seen the televised, we're trying to narrow it down to what the problem is that's causing this, and we have an engineer that's on board with this, the operator of the sewer plant. They've been involved in all the investigation we've been doing as far as the sewer lines, and trying to find why this is happening. I know we've had several inches of rain weeks in a row, which doesn't help, and if you get that inflow through loose pipes or something, that's a still burden on the system itself. But I don't know, this is the first time I've ever, in my 40-some years here, had sewer backup since that sewer's been put in,
Well,
that I know. Not saying it's,
I've been here over 20-some years. I have never, ever had a problem like this. And people will tell you, I don't just come flying down to the township. But when this happens in your home, and your home can be condemned, this is a health issue. This, if it was your basement and it was like this, would you not come running to these meetings, tell it, and I need it fixed. And if $3,000 has to go in and you have to stop the backflow into my home, fine. But somebody's paying for it, and it isn't me, and it isn't my insurance, because it's not my fault.
I understand.
And if I had a crack in my line, in my personal line, that's my responsibility. But that's not what we're talking about here. So I wanna know who's paying for it, I wanna know what's getting done. This has to happen ASAP. You know, we're talking about a health issue, for God's sake.
I can't answer the question of who's paying it. What I will tell you is, we have done a lot of investigative work, we still have some more that we're doing. We feel that we know where a lot of the problem is. How it's gonna get fixed isn't known yet. I can make recommendations, but we still need to get the whole picture. We don't quite have it. Once I get that, we're gonna have, methods of repairing the lines, cost. Our lines are leaking severely in some areas of the system. I would guess, and you can tell me if I'm incorrect, this is a problem that has recently arisen, probably within the last, I'd say, since December? Or have you had problems in your basement before?
I personally have not had sewage in my basement until recently.
Does anyone else here have problems in their basement?
Well, before we go on, could you identify where the problem is? You mentioned that you know where the problem is.
Yeah, we'd like to know.
Where's the problem?
A lot of the problems, Tim, is in the Seifert Drive, Killian Drive area. The lines are leaking up there, okay, near the railroad tracks. I do not have the full video inspection report, so I just know what I've seen. John, the operator, has also witnessed stuff in manholes. We know there's clear water coming in. Exactly where, we don't know everything. How can we repair it? We can line from manhole to manhole is one method, but we got laterals that are leaking too, from individual homes. We know it's coming in. Where is it coming in those lines? Takes more work. The authority has approved the purchase of a lateral camera, so John, the operator for the township, can go out and start cameraing individual service laterals also, because it's coming in everywhere. It's a cumulative effect. But I would suspect, and this is just me, I know this system also, because I've been here. And yes, we did upgrade the pump station. Trust me, we did. At that time, and when we did it, and John can attest, everything was fine. We did it in 2019. Everything's running fine. But I think recently, something has really opened up in the system to cause your issue and whoever else is affected by that. And trust me, I am sympathetic. I realize if it was me, I wouldn't like it neither. Putting in a backwater valve has been done in other areas. I think Joan can probably say in some of her communities also, where this has been done. Who pays for it? That's a board, be it the township or the authority. They have to work it out. That's not my call, I'm the engineer. I can make recommendations, but I know that is a immediate solution. What I'm talking about doing with the repairs isn't going to be done overnight.
That's why I need
Okay.
an immediate solution.
I understand that.
So I wanna know between, and I hear you,
Mhm.
I've seen them with the cameras, I admit that the day after I came down, I saw them out there with the cameras. I understand that one conduit goes to another under the tracks, the rain track, the train tracks. I know more about sewage than I ever cared to know, okay? But at this particular point, I need an immediate solution, and my immediate solution is to have that plumber come in, dig up my freaking basement, put the backflow valve on in, and then I can call ServPro, get them in, and clean the sewage out of my, that's the immediate solution. But I don't think for 1 minute I should have to pay for that. So I wanna know how you're paying for it. And not go to the other meeting and this meeting, cause I keep going to meetings, I need a solution.
So I think it's something we're gonna have to discuss between the authority and the township, and we're gonna have to come up with a solution for you.
I
So
would appreciate that.
They have a meeting tomorrow night, so we can, no, I mean, you don't have to go.
Please don't make me go to another one of these meetings, please.
We can collectively figure out what approach we wanna take and present that to the supervisors for them to take action.
I would appreciate that, and I'd appreciate some correspondence on this, cause I wanna know immediately what's happening. I got a plumber, he'll start digging tomorrow to put in a backflow valve. It's just that I truly don't think I should have to put a penny out of my pocket. And he's the one who said that Muhlenberg got this grant, and they would give it to citizens to have this happen. I don't wanna go research grants, I worked in nonprofit for years. I'm laying it out there, just as an option for y'all, to get maybe some reimbursement if that's the way it rolls. But I need an immediate solution.
Could I ask you just one favor to do, and maybe you already did it, but if you do have a quote from your plumber for that,
Mhm.
I would suggest you get a copy of that to Mr. Howitt.
You'll have it tomorrow. You'll have it
So-
tomorrow morning.
And anyone else in that same position. That's
And
what I would recommend.
I'll
You
get a
need
quote from
copy of
them,
the plumber's quote,
and my cleanup from ServPro,
and I would get
and my
that.
losses, cause I have pictures of losses in my basement.
We got those pictures. I told them, and also Mr. Diesel, that's the operator. They were forwarded to us. So,
Yeah.
like I said, we are aware of the situation. I wish I could tell you an immediate solution, but the only immediate solution is what your plumber is recommending now. I would
Okay,
agree.
you will have all those quotes and my cleanup quote, you will have it tomorrow morning. I appreciate you listening to this, I really do. I'm just very upset. It smells, it's disgusting,
That's
and
understandable.
I have a very clean, neat home. I have issues with cleanliness. This is taking me over the edge. So I do appreciate you listening, and I am praying we come up with a solution immediately.
You televised down there.
We televised all the way from Cypress, we went all the way down to Old River Road to Manual 114 down to 112. The televising contractor will be back in tomorrow. So he's gonna be televising the Old River Road from 114 all the way up to 724. And then he's also gonna try to televise down from 112 down to the pump station. At the time when this was done, and you can attest, we are having a lot of those rains, just followed up the rains. So there was water gushing in. Those lines were so full, even if you TV, you wouldn't see anything. So we're hoping that it has receded to the point that we can also televise the line from 112 down to the pump station.
No, it's not. It's still running the
Okay.
same way.
Well, he'll be out there tomorrow.
8-inch pipe is solid water.
Okay. Well, it might be coming in somewhere, we can't see it if we can't get, if it's underwater, we won't see anything.
Yeah, that's what he said. You can't see it.
Yeah.
Camera can't see it. It's
Right.
underwater.
Right,
And we're supposed to get rain tomorrow.
I know, well,
Don't say that.
no, that's tomorrow.
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
Wednesday and Thursday.
That's the last thing I want.
Have you tried MBA or? They have cameras that won't do it.
I think the camera would go in the water, you just won't see anything.
No, I mean, unless it,
The
I mean,
problem is to
sewage,
see the
yes,
pipe.
yes, so
That's the problem.
That's
So,
what you're saying.
Robert Caldwell, 1429 River Road. So, I apologize, I believe I started all this sewage problems, but this has been going on for a couple years. Gwendolyn is one of my neighbors. It's been running out of her trap for years, and she's been calling the township. I didn't realize how bad it was until I had a problem at my aunt's house. When I went to the township, they told me they're not responsible for the sewer lines. That it's the, whatever.
Pass
So-
on to RTMA.
Yeah, the RTMA, sorry, thank you. I guess the only thing I wanna ask is, are you guys gonna request, cause I have 1421, and that one's backed up in the past couple years up my lateral with solid with toilet paper. We're starting to put things together that when them lines are clogged and the road's underwater, it backs up all the way up our street. My plumber came out, I paid $600 twice, 300 and 300, to have him plunge that line out. And he says, this is solid toilet paper. I thought it was from my tenant. It can't be. It's gotta be backing up. That's only when the road's underwater. I mean, what's that?
And the
Yeah,
bar.
I mean, and the bar had crap running out in the parking lot. They took care of that one, but, you know, if you guys are gonna put something together that residents of the township in the past so many years had a sewer clean out like I did, if you're gonna be a partial reimbursement or not, that would be great. I mean, I know Nan, if I was on the board, I would've had her basement cleaned the next day. I mean, that's,
But it doesn't pay to clean the basement until you fix the problem.
yeah, well, exactly.
Alright, thank you, we're like, I said, we're working on it as best we can.
I get it, but
It can't happen overnight.
They didn't
there's
actually
always-
go up any lateral.
I'm the kind of guy
All we did
that I
was go
feel
down
like
the
that
main
I gotta push all the time.
That's why we're getting the
I've run my own business, I've ran businesses before, and if you're not pushing, the work ain't getting done.
This is the first we've heard of this,
Well,
I mean,
actually-
over the last several
Actually,
weeks.
I just looked it up. January 19th is the first call we had about this problem. And it was two property owners. I mean, we got the call. I don't know whether they
Yeah.
called the township or I don't know anything about that. But I can tell you that January 19th, I got a call, from Greg Brown. And 20 minutes later, he was on the scene, as in our operator, was on the scene,
Yeah.
that's the problem.
No, I,
So, I mean, and as far as we knew, those were two isolated incidents.
well,
The rest of these problems we have not heard about.
there's more. I mean, there's residents that aren't here tonight. One guy was gonna have his whole front yard dug up to his house, cause his line gets clogged all the time. He's the last house on Old River Road and sits up on the top. Dave is his name. Yeah, Dave Gillage. If you walk through his front yard where his sewer clean out vent is, all the dirt from his yard is washing out onto the street. I mean, it looks like a geyser coming out of his vent,
It looks like mine too.
and she's her neighbor.
What was the house number on that one?
Mine is 1290. He's right next door to me, but he's probably 1292. Yeah, we just get a little bit of rain and it looks like a fountain coming out of my,
That's not your vent pipe outside.
Yeah.
Up your vent pipe.
yeah. And I try to keep it clean, but it gets so clogged in there. It's just toilet paper and all
So,
kinds.
so while we cannot, while as the township's the manager, all right, can't take direct action, I don't have the personnel for that, we're not trained to do those things. What you've done is good, you brought those to us, we immediately turn those around, we give those to our engineer, we give those to the operator, and they've taken the action that they can, all right, within that construct. So, again, I can't obligate the funds, but at least I can get that to the folks that can start to take the action, which is where we're at right now, all right? And that's, again, those are board decisions, that's beyond me.
Did you know all those before?
I knew of some, I can't say all.
So what we need from
Seems
you
that
is if these things are, if you haven't shared an address with us, we don't know that that's happened. We've shared some. I know, Bob, you've come in. I
Well,
appreciate that.
believe 1421 is the very last on the line that has a problem.
Okay.
I mean, I can't speak for everybody on our street, cause they might not even know. You know what I mean?
Is there any rationale to the relationship between the homes that are getting it and everybody else that's not?
I think you have to look at some elevations on some of that, but what I will say is that the amount of that clear water coming down from up above is tremendous.
No, I know, but I'm
So I
thinking,
think it is overwhelming the lines down below. And once we take it
if
out,
If
it will
Dan's
get
getting
better.
it and Caldwell's getting it, everybody in between should be getting something.
Well, I can answer some of that question for you just for the house next door to me, where Alan Steffi lives. He does not have a drain in his basement at all. In fact, there was a hole, because these houses were built for two sisters back in the day. There was a hole in the corner of the wall and it sloped, so any water or anything that comes in his basement would come through that hole. I had that completely sealed, and that's been sealed for about 15 years now.
Okay, so you presented a new problem.
So there's no drain in his basement.
But if you have a basement drain, you were supposed to fill it in years ago.
If you,
If you have a basement drain, it was supposed to be capped a long time ago.
oh, mine's got a cap on it.
No, it was supposed to be completely shut off. You're not, your basement drain is not supposed to be connected to the sewer system.
My basement drain has a cap on it, and the cap comes up, and that's how the sewage comes in.
We sent out letters saying everybody should,
That shouldn't even, your basement drain should not be hooked up to the sewer line, so you should be getting sewer back up through a floor drain in the basement.
Oh, this comes through the floor, it comes through the line that where my wash machine is, everything. Where my wash machine goes into a PVC line, it backs up through this line.
So it's already elevated, what you're saying, it's already, the
She's-
pressure is
Comes up
elevated.
She's below the elevation of
Right,
the water
forget the
body.
floor drain, you're saying it still would be.
It still would be
Yeah.
coming up through.
So what I'm thinking is happening now, I've worked in sewage and wastewater and water for 30-some years. What I think is happening, I live on Cypher, you can see some of the places where the street over the years has moved, where the land is just, as you would think, kind of sliding down. And what may have happened is these are clay pipes.
Coming up that high the other day.
Yeah, well, what happens is those clay pipes may have separated.
I
At some
think they
point,
have, it's
some point a spring is coming
constantly.
into our sewage system, and we have to find where that is. Nothing's really gonna, I mean, your cleanup and repairs aside, this will continue to be a problem until we
Until we seal it.
isolate where the water's coming in. And for the board, since it's in the meeting minutes, so I can talk about it since we're talking about that, the laterals up there, you're gonna get, what we're seeing here is just a preview of probably what you'll get when you tell those people, oh, your lateral's broke because our main moved. We have a series of problems where then everything that goes down that hill is just hitting the pumping station. The pumpings pump as fast as they can pump as they're designed, but what's coming in exceeds that. It backs up, and you're just getting everything everybody has, and it's coming up.
Shit runs
So
down.
that doesn't make your problem any easier, and we're not saying it does. But that's what we're working on. We're working on solving that part of the problem.
but that basement drain needs to be terminated.
Yeah, I would suggest
Just
any
concrete,
resident that
no.
has a basement drain,
Should be
But
capped.
not cap it, put
plug
cement
you
in
can
it.
get for that, to stop it from coming up.
But
But
you're
I think our
saying
cap
your washer drain
Yeah, which is,
it's coming through the drain for your washer.
If I put a cap in, because believe me, I looked this up online because I was like, and I had the plumber down there, if we put one of those caps in and cap it off, that water's gonna come shooting out of where my washing machine, where my little hooky thing is for the washing, I don't know the technical term.
yours isn't the issue. It's the people up on Cypher, if they have a floor drain and it's just, the water's running in there, well, that's just added to the problem. That's really why we want the floor drain closed at your house for your safety, but the floor drains on the upper elevations to stop the inflow and infiltration. And it requires in-home inspection, it's the only thing.
I
Most of
built
those,
this,
some of those floor drains have been in for, 30 years. This is right by the pump station. This is the water, this is January 9th, this is the
Yep.
water going right into the Allegheny.
Right.
Board supervisors have seen this before.
From where? sorry.
Going right into the Alleghenies, right by the pump station, by the church. This is people's yards. That's people's manholes, people's yards. Now, DEP has contacted me, and that individual was pretty clear on the clean streams law. I'll let your solicitor maybe get into that with you at some point, but, you know, I'm concerned, fellas. I'm gonna tell you, no doubt about it, I'm concerned with references that they make. So, I mean, I understand the lease is up, I'm not sure how that happened or how that got expired, but there's all kind of issues inherent in that lease that's gonna, you know, come to fruition. So anything this sort of, you served with my father, did you not?
Yes, I did.
Okay, right now he'd be, I think he'd be, concerned, I use that word. And, you know, we all try to do the right thing here, and now we've got, it's a big problem. We need the floor drains that's important, but we got a big problem, and these people deserve answers. And to show it, and that's not a disrespect, Mr. Steve, to say, well, it's the board problems, these people came out, were told to come to here, you know, back to us. We gotta do something.
But we plan to come up with a solution tonight and pass it on to you guys for action tomorrow.
Anything to add, anything Keith hasn't said, or?
No, I just will say that me and the daily operator, you know, we traced back, you know, the heavy flow in the pipes. Initially, we were thinking it may have been one of the stream crossings, especially the stream crossing between manhole 114 and 118. That may have been a problem because we have a transition in there from PVC to cast iron back to PVC.
That right down here.
Where
That,
the firewood is,
Yeah, where the firewood,
the line runs through there.
Oh, alright.
so when we got onto the other side of 724, then we kept following it back. So what we said, no, it's not the stream crossing. We followed it back to manhole 123, and then Keith's field inspector took over from there, and he went up, and that's where we followed it up into the Killian-Seifert area. I know we have a pretty good report from what Ditch Creek has done so far, but I think that's in Keith's report, so, you know, when we get to that, I'll let him touch on that, but cameras ordered, the lateral cameras ordered, so we don't expect it will be too long before that comes in. It was an in-stock item. So hopefully in the next week or so, we'll have that lateral camera, and we'll be looking at properties up on Seifert and Killian. I suspect there may be some pumps connected in that area. I mean, it's gonna be hard to tell, but we're gonna at least start by looking at laterals from the clean out to the main, and then from the clean out to the house. So we're gonna take it both ways. And we're gonna do every property up there.
Yeah, I would venture to say though, if there are sub pumps connected, they're adding to the problem, but they're not the problem. Because they've been connected for a long time.
Right.
Correct, I would agree with you on that.
So just some of Ditch Creek's initial findings were, lateral wise, I was, you know, it led me to believe that there may be some pumps up there.
Yeah, I
Possibly.
thought it turned out that there was not terracotta under the railroad track.
Well, at first I didn't think there was, and now I guess there is, well, there is some out there, that's all I'll say, and it's leaking, and I'm not surprised.
That's the DTC.
Yeah,
Pipe.
DTC, yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just curious, the water line was run along the railroad also.
And I saw that.
In proximity, how close it was to our sewer line, I do not know.
Right.
But I am just curious if there might have been some settling that's occurred along there.
Anything's possible, again, I saw that too in the photograph when my inspector did it, I didn't recall that they were right alongside of that, but they are.
I don't know how close to go they are, but I know it's going down the same.
It's, yeah, there's some separation, our sewer line's more in the middle of that trail, and they're off to the side there.
Okay.
I would say they're at least a good 5 feet away, maybe even more.
Well, doesn't the water line pass over the sewer line? I mean, it comes down off of that hill, doesn't it? It's gotta cross under somewhere.
Well, it would be be
Sewer
above,
lines are generally under.
sewer will be below it.
Yeah.
But still, it's the idea when they put the construction in, it would have been above it, might have.
Some place I'd look would be one of the Cyphers Drive side along the trail.
Yep.
That section of the trail flooded
Oh, that's where it's coming in, we know,
quite a bit.
it's right there. That's one of the
Yeah,
main,
back pipe that was
That's
right there
probably
as well.
caused
Yeah,
by
for
an
sure.
individual filling in a drain along the railroad. Water used to run along the railroad track and come out close to your place through a culvert under the railroad and drain to the canal, eventually to the creek. And some landholder dumped it full of, gosh knows what.
But it was the trails.
Or,
The trails filled it in.
yeah, well,
And
it's
it's
the
not the
trail.
house.
It's next to the trail, the homeowner covered it up. It's the trail owner's land, maybe the trail owner's responsibility to clean it. But I brought this up years ago, and I got nowhere with it.
Yeah, I met with a trail engineer, Dwight, what was his name?
How?
And, they were not willing to do anything. We found the openings, there's one here at the campgrounds,
Right, you
and,
can see it from the road. You can go over there and see where
Yeah.
the culvert is.
and the water was supposed to flow in there, and then down further, was another one came across. But, they were not willing to, offer any help to, repair that. He told me if I wanted it fixed, to put my own piping in and divert the water.
I have a hunch that maybe if it's surface water, it'd be a really good place that it's backing up and working its way into our line. I don't know if we have terracotta on that side of on the Cypress
You know what?
Drive sign or
we,
not.
it's on the trail, yeah, it's on both sides along the railroad tracks.
Is it?
According to the report that we got. yeah.
Terracotta was popular in '86, but
It was.
phasing out, was it not?
It was just switching, most of our system is predominantly PVC, and I
That's the
think,
green part.
I think what happened there, and Dalen may recall too.
Yep.
But because it was within the railroad right of way,
The
the
railroad
railroad
agreed.
said you can't use PVC pipe.
Right, had to be vitrified clay.
Yeah. Which at that time was,
And it was
Popular
vitrified
sewer.
clay than the old stuff where you had to just cement joints, at
and
least.
it was good when it first went
It
in.
was sealed.
Problem is, it
Into the
opens up,
joint.
and that's what I think happened, and it's probably worse than it ever has been.
I did some driving around up there in Cypher, next to, the guy that has the horse farm up on the hill.
Killian or Cypher?
Up on Cypher.
All
You
the
know,
way,
you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
He's next to the guy
he's up
who's.
on the hill, on the right
Yeah,
side.
yeah, yeah. So in the middle of his driveway is a sewer clean out and a vent, and he hit him with a snowplow. Well, that water was running down his driveway, cause there's no lid on it, into that lid, and you can hear the water running through that.
That's noted on our report,
I mean, it was pouring through that.
that will be fixed.
Yeah, that's gotta be one place you got work
That's
on.
one place.
That's one place, that was noted on our report, that's all done.
I'm sure there's more like that if you dig around.
Sure,
Yeah.
go ahead.
And I apologize if these are stupid questions, I don't normally come to these things.
Your name?
Huh?
Your name?
Oh, Brandy, Zebra. I'm at 1429 Old River Road with this one. So, are the pipes cast iron?
There's, most of them are PVC plastic.
Okay,
There are some sections of cast iron pipe within the system. That was put in mainly wherever we went under a stream, and it was concrete encased on top of being cast iron, okay? There are some other sections where the cast iron, but most of it's plastic. The plastic pipe that we have seen normally holds up pretty well, okay? The clay pipe, which they only put a couple sections in, which we think was probably because of the railroad company, that is subject to leaking over time. It was an older pipe, probably goes back to the '60s, but was still being used in the '80s when this system went in, which was
That was
later.
because of the railroad, period.
Yeah, but
I was around a little bit at the
PVC
time.
plastic pipe was just becoming popular in the '80s. Now it's pretty much what all you put in.
Pretty standard, industry
Yeah.
standard.
Yeah.
so can't the same thing happen with the cast iron?
No, cast iron is a different kind of a joint, and it's a much stronger, sturdier pipe.
So the pipe won't leak,
The
but
pipe,
the
Well-
pipe can move.
but the pipe can
So
shift.
if the pipe shifts, then your
could
belt, you can
separate.
come away from the belt.
Uh-huh.
But really, you wanna look at where the clay pipe is And you gotta start realizing this PVC pipe, as great as it is, in the eighties, it may be getting to the end, we don't know what the end of its life is. And with, like, as I said, with the land pressure up there, where the road itself is moving,
There's some
that might be
shifting
just
going on.
enough to shift, not necessarily the whole pipe, but
And open up a joint.
move the joint, and then now all that water that you just see running down that hill, like they said, the trail is just almost covered in water.
Yeah.
And that's all going into the pipe, going to your homes. That doesn't resolve your present
No.
issue. I just
Well,
wanted
there is
to
a,
explain why.
Municipal pipe that runs along, Cypress Drive and collects that water, brings it out to the end and switches it over across, and it comes down to a concrete, something in somebody's backyard, it gets down and dumps on the railroad. So a lot of that water is collected from the whole length of Cypress Drive and dumped right there. One of
That
the
first
ditches on
house on the
railroad.
left, it goes, you can hear that running, but that's a storm sewer, that should be under MS4, that should just run away. And people shouldn't be closing it, even if it is on their property, that's a separate issue. But that's not the sewer issue, I really do
No.
think,
Yeah.
from what his report is, that we're seeing movement in the pipe. Maybe some of it has broken, but we have to find it, and the problem is, as long as it's wet as it is, because it's sewage, it's not like I can send a pipe up a regular water pipe and see, they just don't have the visibility to see where it's coming in.
Well, it's diluted sewage technically because of all surface water coming in.
Yeah, but
yeah,
it's still,
yeah.
it's still
It's still
disturbed, cloudy to
very
see.
cloudy.
When these cameras are in there, there's only so much you can see, and then we're just guessing. But what we can do is, oh, it's full of water here, just keep tracing it up, and we'll work on the problems one by one from the end of the line back, till we find it.
Bring one other issue up, just so you're prepared for it, because I think it may come up in the future. If you start finding individual lines and you start finding either floor drains or sump pumps connected, do you have the legal infrastructure, I'll call it that for lack of a better word, or procedure to take action against those property holders? Either get access to the property to see what the actual problem is, number one, and number two, force them to correct the issue.
I've seen in the context of one of the boroughs that I represent, where there's also a sewer and water authority, that there was a program for inspections for illegal connections, for sump pumps that were connected to the sanitary sewer system, roof drains, basement drains and the like. And it was a program of inspection where a letter was sent out, and the individual consented to just a very brief inspection. And if they would not agree to it, then there's always the possibility of getting an administrative warrant if there's cause that this might be a property that is a problem. If the township has an ordinance to that effect for that type of inspection, that might be one avenue, or especially if it would be in the sewer use ordinance of the township. That's something that needs to be checked, is the sewer use ordinance, because that may outline what the authority is of the code official or the code official's designee, who could be an employee of either the authority or the township. But yes, I have seen I have seen programs of inspections now it was a borough-wide inspection, of course, this is the borough of Topton, so it's a pretty small, compact, discrete area. And with this, it may be that it would be inspections in one sewer district, one area where there are demonstrated problems. You'd have to structure it as you would see fit. But that's a long answer, but I think that's what you were asking about.
You know, here's, I don't know if we have anything here.
Yeah, well,
Do you have anything?
Yeah, the shorter answer is, in our chapter 18, you know, you as an authority, I'd encourage you, you know, to take a look at our own ordinances. On behalf, and certainly not the entire Board of Supervisors, we have ordinances out the gazoo.
Yeah, there's
This one,
18 besides that one.
right, and what I'm saying is, I'm not the township I'm not the township solicitor or the authority solicitor, but there's enough, even in addition to our own ordinances, to take the actions we gotta take. But those individual actions are only the smaller part right now, and have been neglected for 2 decades, in my opinion. On my farm, I have sewer manholes that are under the ground. You're not ready for these problems. Look, you're just not ready. So there's already answers. And by the way, folks, this gives the board, me, board of supervisors, and them, all the power. You have no power, you have no say, at least under these ordinances. Except your own individual, I'll say, legal battles. So the mechanism's there, it just hasn't been done. Hasn't been done for years. And by the way, DEP has its own set, there's tons of other regulations that are involved here, in my opinion.
So with you saying that it's been umpteen years since these lines, I'm assuming, have been maintained or inspected or maintenance, whatever you wanna call it, isn't there a law? Like, I work for a utility and we have to inspect our lines every 3 years. So is there not a law when it comes to this part of the utility? I'm not familiar with that side, so, and
There's no specific law that says they have to inspect a line every year, every 2 years. It's just general good maintenance, okay? And maintenance may have been neglected over the time, but you have to understand that maintenance is also, and I don't wanna belittle it, is you look at, if someone's calling with problems, you're going to be out there to maintain that area. And as Nan said, 20 years, she didn't have a problem. And I can believe that. And I would hope everyone would be like that. But I understand, that area was prone to flooding. We recognize that. The township overlaid that road like 2010. At that time, we put in water pipe manhole covers to make sure that if the water came over, it wouldn't go into our system. But now our system is building up so much pressure in it, it's coming up, I think. It's a combination of both, but it's coming up because I think there is so much water coming off that hill, coming into the line, and you can only put so much water in a pipe. That's it. And I don't wanna try to, it's kinda like simple, but it still is a problem. And we gotta figure out, first, we're gonna try to take that excess water out of our pipe. If that doesn't work, then we gotta make our pipe bigger to get it to our pump station, to get it to our plant.
Is it a matter of the pipe being bigger to the pump station, or is the well backing up that much that it's holding water in the line, that the pumps can't handle it?
No, right now, I think it's a combination of there's so much water coming into the pipes can't even push all the water to our pump station, okay? It's too much coming in. That pipe is completely full. But I think our pumps are big enough if we can seal off this excess water. It worked for many, many years, okay? So the problem, it doesn't necessarily, I think Pat can tell you too, he's been in the business. Unfortunately, as pipes age, shift, move, you get more water coming in. And it's just, once you have a little crack, it opens up a little bit more. Keep getting more and more water. And I think that's what's happened here. It's really built up. I'm telling you that some of the videos and some of the manholes John looked at, it's gushing in. It's not good, but we gotta get it out.
Were those lines televised when that water line went through?
No, not to the best of my knowledge. We did TV the lines. There was some inspection work done, I wanna say in around 2012. That was before that water line went.
Because I knew the line was televised here when the electric line.
Yeah, we did do that
I
there,
knew that
yeah,
was televised,
yeah,
but I didn't know if it was done up there.
yeah,
for
we
the
did.
water line.
Not that I'm aware of.
So if they, is my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is when us residents pay the sewer bill, part of that is maintenance.
That's correct.
So what's been happening with our money?
Well, it's going in, but we also have to maintain our sewer treatment plant. And that is also a battle that this board has had to deal with over the years. I don't wanna get into all the specifics of it. The board knows that we, sewer creates what we call sludge, okay? It's the real heavy stuff. We have it going into what we call reed beds, drying beds. You have to be emptied out every so often because it builds up over time. Well, we had to do that more lately than what we wanted to. It costs a lot of money because you put all that in a landfill. It costs money to put it in a landfill. So we had a lot of, I say maintenance costs, whatever you wanna call it, related to our plant. So we might not have put as much into our sewer system, but that's because we weren't having a lot of complaints. Everything's, as far as we knew, was okay. Maybe not the greatest, don't get me wrong, Old River Road area, we knew it was a problem, but we weren't aware of backups and basements. That I will attest to, because,
In 2022, we did some extensive work up
Yeah.
there on those manholes along the Allegheny there. And there was some pipe work done there as well.
Mhm.
But, we addressed the problems as they present themselves, and like I said, I never heard, until you were at the township meeting the other night, I never heard anything about your problem.
Mhm.
I knew about Caldwell and his aunts, and I knew about Greg Brown. Those are the only ones I knew about.
But if he just said that they were aware of the problem.
not problems
Except-
with basements
Yeah,
backing up.
correct, yeah.
Just
But-
in general, where high water is, that's
Yeah.
what when I say that, that's what we knew. That's why what we did was put watertight covers in the manhole. As Harold said, we also, Ditch Creek was out there, and we looked at some of the manholes, and we saw some leaks in the manholes. They were sealed up, grouted and sealed, lined, and that's what we have to do up in Cypher too. We aren't just gonna work on the lines, we also have to seal some of the manholes.
Well, some of the vents as well, because Beidler House, when it's flooded, is.
Right, we know, it comes in up top.
It's
because
water, so it's
not-
just, it's
it's
more water in the
water.
system, right?
We knew that.
So generally, the answer is, most of your maintenance costs for any sewer system are at the plant. This collection system is usually your foundation, you usually don't have a lot of problems with it. I've only been on the board a couple of years, but they've addressed, since I've been on, fixing sewer houses, where all the lines come together, in an area. They're sealing them up, putting these I&I devices in them so no more water gets in, and then going back and checking them. I think the problem is, we're starting to chase, again, a movement of the whole system. It doesn't take a lot of pressure to move the system and separate a line enough, and once water finds its way in. So from what
It's only
he's
gonna get
saying,
worse.
what he's saying is, I think we really should, and we're gonna talk about it in our engineering portion, is we really should work, normally you work from the pumping station out, but in this case, I think we should go to the end of Killian, cause it's a dead end.
Gotta
And
stop
an
the water
end,
from
and an
coming in.
end of Cypher, cause they're both dead ends, and we can just trace the problem in till we find the big problem, whatever it is. I don't think it's the water line, which is along the railroad track, because they're seeing so much water, the elevation up.
Right.
So that's a good sign there. I mean, it would really be easy if it was the water line broken, they could just
Right,
fix
a
it
leak,
now and
yeah,
go
right.
away,
I don't
but
think that's the case.
I don't think that's the case.
Maybe should be at least brought up, I'm not saying, because I don't know what you wanna have to do, but if there is a number of problems along the trail,
Mhm.
and you gotta dig it up and replace it, we gotta at least, investigate to make sure that we could put glass and pipe in again to replace it in place of putrefied clay.
Yeah.
I don't know if.
Well, we were looking at actually lining it, actually putting a liner in that.
And that might be the cheapest solution, that's what everybody
Yeah.
You can
does
go in
now.
the manhole,
Yeah, well,
Don't dig it
I
up.
was thinking this, if it pushed and stuff like that,
Yeah,
you'd have
but
to.
that is
You'd
actually,
be amazed,
it's actually
they
stronger.
just go to two different sewer houses now, and they just run this basic hose through it, and it expands.
Yeah.
You don't end up spending money on digging, and it seals it in. But you gotta engineer it, and you have to, we have to send
Yeah,
some.
you're lining the pipe. I know
And
what you're
clearly it's a
doing,
problem.
yeah.
And we
If
will
it
address it.
works, it's fine, but I was thinking of settlement, pushing the pipe actually being physically pulled apart.
And one of the things is, your sewer fees don't pay for the full maintenance and costs of the plant. We constantly apply for grants, and we've probably gotten a couple $1 million worth of grants over the last 5 years to keep the place so that we're not raising rates all the time. So, I mean, it's not like we're skimping or we're trying to take advantage of anybody. We are putting money back into the plant. And it's not always the customer's money, but we've gotten, done really well with grants.
Yeah, I guess it's just, my concern is, number one, I'm not saying that the Schuylkill River is the cleanest river, we all know that. But is there not concern that there's more
Well, not only that,
sewage?
well water as
Yeah,
well,
and like,
you know?
how do we, like, is this gonna affect our well water? You know, like, it's kind of concerning, like, and if this problem was known years ago, except the basement issue, it wasn't happening, why not start trying to nip it? You know, we've had earthquakes lately, that can jar pipes underground, we all know that. And if there was a small crack, the earthquakes that our area has been having the past several years could have just, this last one was a bigger one. Could have really did something worse, and we're only in the beginning of the season of rain. I feel very bad for, like, and anybody that's getting in their actual basement, because it's just, I don't know, I'm sorry, I just.
Like I said, January the 19th is when the first call came to me that said, hey, we got a problem.
Yeah.
Or I have a problem. And then Greg Brown was the first, and then I guess your aunt
Well, it
was
was
the.
my aunt's, which they said was broken and a rock in it. And I had a plumber up and we ran a camera through it, it's clean. And I haven't had a problem since. But then I talked to neighbors on that street, Eli and Nicole Kerr used to own the house next door, and she said they used to get clogged up as well. I mean, the thing is, people were having these problems and just taking care of it and not telling anybody.
Or was somebody telling them?
Yeah, I mean, and we can't
No.
address something we don't know
That's
anything
right,
about.
that's
You know, I know.
I have another question. When they put the storage in, they said it was a closed system, because I questioned that because I'm always getting flooded there. Is it a closed system or not? That's what I was told.
It's supposed to be, it's
Yeah,
not,
it's
it's not supposed to be a combined,
Right,
storm, it's supposed to be just a
it's just sanitary sewer. There are two different systems out there. The older technology had what they call combined sewers. That's where storm sewer and sanitary sewer came in a pipe, but the
Yeah.
pipes were much bigger.
That's,
And they still have that up in Schuylkill County in some
and
places.
that's why you're not supposed to have a sump pump, cause that's stormwater. You're not supposed to have a broken lateral, cause that's
Right.
stormwater.
But I do know that there are people who have basement drains. The question is how many people also have their rain spots running into the same thing?
Yeah.
Or some. Again, it's additional.
But like I said, even with the sub pumps up on Killian Drive and Cypher Drive, it shouldn't be creating the problem we have today.
Do you have to take emergency action, or does it have to be on the insurance?
I think that this is something that would be emergency action. I think that it's a sufficiently serious matter.
So I think the first step would simply be, how many homes are on Old River Road in the affected area? We're gonna get quotes that we can use as an average, because we need, our job is to look at the numbers and see where we spend money. I think the first thing would be to line those two pipes in Killian and Cypher. Yeah, there's broken laterals, but if it's the pipe itself, when we line it. And lining it is one of the most cost-effective ways to repair a pipe, whether it's a water main or a sewer main. They'll be out, we can get them out tomorrow.
Come out pretty quick.
They can come out quick and say it'll cost this much to do it from here to here and how long it will take. And that'll at least alleviate the issues in their home, and then we'll have a number that we can attach to.
Well, I'm concerned with her because if you fix the problem in the basement, it's just gonna push it somewhere else.
Well, that's why I'm saying, when the road's underwater, I'll get my lateral and clean out, I'll get packed with toilet paper on 1421.
There is a limit to, when the road's underwater.
Yeah, I get it.
That's sort of the act of God thing. We're worried about if we could just alleviate the flow through there. I don't think getting those numbers would hurt, and we'd have a dollar amount. We have projects we can shuffle around, or just dig into rainy day fund, whatever we have.
Well, according to the draft that Joan gave us, the supervisors are supposed to ask us to spend the emergency funds, because they're responsible for maintenance of the line.
You're talking
I
about
can anticipate that.
You're talking about the lease draft. Yeah, the lease draft, I mean, we'll get to it under my report. The lease draft was as faithful as possible to the 1986 agreement and updated to remove, for example, references to the EPA grant and references to the 1986 guaranteed sewer bonds. We'll need some updating as to any current debt service, any current grants in effect, and it's also flexible enough to allow for future grants. That's, you know, again, that was the arrangement, and one thing that I have in the draft lease is a ratification of actions taken over the past several years, since we've discovered the expiration of the lease, so we wanna just keep it in continuous, effect, but subject to this modification. But, yes, the Board of Supervisors will be getting the lease draft as soon as the Board of Supervisors, the authority has the chance to review.
Okay, so what is the best way to address this, because ultimately, the problem has to be given to them tomorrow.
Right, the problem has to be given.
So we have to take some kind of action and allow, it's kind of backwards.
What I would recommend, Pat had a suggestion for remediation. We would need to amend the agenda to do that, but I would make a motion and Pat maybe
Well,
formulate it into a motion.
Isn't that part of somebody's report here with all the infiltration in the system?
Yeah, I mean, it says, this is the board needs to ratify the action of purchasing the lateral camera. That was an emergency action that was taken. But I think you amend the agenda to allow for the expenditure to get quotes for the lining, and also to authorize continued investigation and emergency repairs to keep this from continuing to happen.
So I have two motions. I'll start with the first. First motion is to allow STE engineers.
To amend the agenda, to amend the.
I'll make a motion that we amend the agenda to expedite the emergency repairs.
Right, and I agree, and then there will be several motions under that Pat, you can make.
Well, then I'll second that motion.
And then we have to see if there's any comments from public to if we agree or disagree with that motion.
We're expediting repair?
I
Yeah.
didn't think.
No
I
comment.
against that.
No, I just appreciate you guys listening to us. I mean,
Totally.
as a township supervisor meetings, when I'm here, they're not listening.
It's
You guys are listening. They're up there, they're one fighting with another all the time. So I appreciate you guys listening to our concern and doing what you need to do.
Well, we're glad
So
you
that's
came
your
and brought it to light,
positive comments, right? And
so.
do we have any comments about that in the motion?
No.
So we got the first and second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Okay, so now I can make a motion. Motion that we authorize the engineer, SDE, to call in any number of companies for lining of the. Request for proposals for lining Seifert Drive and Killian Drive to prevent I&I.
How about all necessary piping you deem necessary?
Oh, yeah, and all necessary that you deem necessary.
I'll second that if need be.
Do we wanna throw in a cost to the motion though?
It's an emergency
We're gonna
repair.
say yeah.
Well, this is.
Well, we can't
this-
exceed
this
13,000?
Well, this piece is requesting proposals, so there's no
Okay.
threshold for that. Now, the next motion might be to authorize repairs up to,
Up to a certain
up
amount.
to a certain amount.
So as an emergency, we're not bound by the state limit for 3 RFPs.
Right, you're not, right, but only as necessary to take care of the emergency. So beyond that, then you're gonna have to get quotes or most likely competitive bids.
We may be able to do co-stars and so on.
Yes. Anyway, that's my motion.
That's your motion?
What was the motion?
Motion for SDE to
You just said it.
call, to call for quotes or RFPs for the lining of the sewer mains on Killian and Seifert as needed to alleviate the emergency situation on Holsworthy Road.
Okay, we already made the second on that, right?
I second it.
No, I seconded it,
No,
but
I second
when you made it the first time.
Well, here they're saying how much you didn't fight and everything, yeah, here we go.
All right, so we'll give Tom the second, I don't care.
Any comments?
it. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Opposed? Now you have another one?
Yeah, I can't remember what it was.
I think it's to take action for,
Yeah,
to
that's
make emergency repairs.
Yeah, so once we get that, now do we, let's say he comes up with a plan, he's gonna send us the emails. Do we have like we normally do, I approve, or do I have to?
Well, again,
That's
what
what
is,
we're gonna
what is,
call the board and
you,
ratify
you
the action.
can do that, again, it's only authorized as necessary to take care of the immediate emergency, keep more water and sewage from coming into residents' basements.
And
A more permanent fix needs to be, go through the quote, the bid or quote process.
So what would be the limit?
we're capped at what, 13 grand before we have to get
Well,
bids?
that's before you have to get bids, that's for, you start at the, and I'll give you the exact number under
I
the
think it's,
authorities
you can actually go
act.
as high as 23,000 before
So-
we need 3.
Right, under the Municipal Authorities Act
Before you need
is.
three
And what we're talking about is there's a law, we just can't do
You
it.
can call an emergency meeting, you can
Yeah.
advertise, I mean, you can take action in a matter of days.
Right, you
Yes.
can call a special meeting. The threshold for the written or telephonic bids versus the, formal bidding process is 23,200. And the quote, you need quotes at, 12,600.
For repairs.
Yeah, between 12,600 and 23,200. But again, for repairs and where there's no addition to the system, for routine maintenance, some of those items are not subject to competitive bidding. Again, as is emergencies are not subject to competitive bidding.
So then we don't have to do any of that, we can just set a number. Is that
You
what you're
can,
saying?
you can set a number, but again, it's, I'm not giving you a blank check, I
Okay,
can't give you
so-
a blank check.
Nice little question. Do the board of supervisors have to declare this an emergency in order for us to get around the bidding process?
No, I don't believe there has to be a declared emergency.
I think that's our authority.
Yeah.
We can say this is an emergency,
As to the
we're gonna
sewer
spend the
system.
funds as long as we stay within the budget we told them. Now, if we leave that budget, then we have to ask them for more money. So what do we have, I think is the next, before we make this,
Alright.
what number do we pick?
I'm a conservative kind of guy, I'm a.
Yeah, well,
Well, first off, we have no idea what's gonna come in at. So, we could do that once we figure out what that number is. You know what I mean?
so you wanna have another meeting?
Well, you either do that or do a poll, I mean, I guess we'd have to have a meeting, but
I just wanna get a foul on it. You know, just do it and then somebody, well, then if somebody sues us, we're only eligible for 20% of the difference anyway.
I'm not sure I would look at it, I'm not sure I would look at it that way. Competitive bidding does not apply to construction, reconstruction, repair, or work of the employees of the authority. Let's see, supplies and materials with the base price. Lowest bid, quotations. I'm just looking for the exemptions in here because the exemptions are,
They did say repair, correct?
Repairs?
all construction, okay, paragraph 1 does not apply to construction, reconstruction, repair, or work done by
Yeah, I would
employees,
classify this as
by
repair
the,
work.
right, but by employees, the authority, or labor supplied under agreement with a federal or state agency.
It's not new construction, it's repair.
But again, I also believe that this is an emergency situation and you need to take action to stop sewage from coming into individuals' basements. And that you need to, and that's and you can go outside of competitive bidding, for that reason.
You just throw in dart of the amount.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing, I spent my weekend, reading Jones' last minute correspondence. And it talks about extraordinary repairs and capital additions. And it says if the township deems it necessary or advisable for the extraordinary repairs should be made to the sewer system and or capital additions should be acquired, constructed with respect thereto, it may request the authority to provide the money for all or part of the cost therein. So, I mean, that tells me that the township is supposed to be the driver for this.
That's for capital additions, I mean, this is not.
Extraordinary
this is not-
repairs?
Extraordinary, yeah, I mean, it depends whether you classify this as an extraordinary repair.
Well, what is your definition?
So in this case,
I'll give you a
the RT may
definition
go
for
back
it.
to the Board of Supervisors, right. In this case, the RT may go back to the Board of Supervisors.
The
Right,
RTA
okay.
should-
Not the other, not a capital addition.
Yeah.
Understood. And just so I'm clear, what should go on, because this will be I take it this is gonna go in front of the Board of Supervisors tomorrow night, what should we be putting in front of them as the emergency
I think that can be the motion, as long
to,
as we give them a dollar amount.
Oh, by the way, it's supposed to be requested by the chair.
Okay, then I would request the chairman make a motion to authorize the RTMA to request the Board of Supervisors to authorize us to make an extraordinary repair up to $100,000.
Oh, that's a little
Like
pricey.
100, I wouldn't go to $100,000.
I would let them decide, we've got the money in the bank, let them decide when they get the quote, okay, it's 20,000 or 30.
So I would say subject to competitive bidding requirements if necessary,
Okay.
yeah, what'd you say? You may have to, for parts of it that are outside of the emergency, that just for the long-term, things that are long-term repairs, and then it's competitive, then it's outside of the emergency.
I know it sounds steep, but by writing it that way, we have the funds, they can then authorize that amount, and then we can, I don't think it's gonna cost that much. But we would have the flexibility to respond quickly with a CoStar's offer from somebody like Mueller or whoever to line the pipe.
I'll second.
All right, Kelly, I'm gonna make sure I know what this
I was
motion
gonna
is.
say exactly.
Okay, so
and-
second, and we can still discuss, you know.
And Rich, you need, that, if we're gonna put that in the agenda tomorrow, or amend the agenda tomorrow, because this is still an emergency.
so we wouldn't need to actually add it to the
No,
agenda,
we'll
but
just
we just
do-
need to bring it into the meeting, I just need to know exactly what we're going to
Well,
be.
yeah, and then do what we just did now, amend the agenda because it's emergency, no different than we did about the tree falling somebody at the playground.
Yes, sir.
But if you could get the exact wording, it's gonna.
Yeah, can somebody help me with that to make sure that we're, if you
So
can
we
get
can
that.
do
right.
that correctly tomorrow, so
Yeah.
whatever John thinks the wording should be.
All right, let me see it in writing and I'll fix it, I'll fix the wording.
So you wanna do just do a motion as per.
A motion as per, John's advice to request that for the RTMA to request from the Board of Supervisors the authorization to expend such funds as necessary to resolve the emergency inflow along Killian and Cypher Drives.
Well, I think what it has to be is, we have to request
Request.
the Board of Supervisors to request from us.
I think by making this request,
We're
we
doing it.
can,
Well, I
we
think,
can
yeah,
short
so I
circuit
think,
that.
I was gonna say, if this motion's coming tomorrow, then we're understanding that we're agreeable to that,
So,
right?
so the first motion
And
was to
then
get moving.
tomorrow, it should just be,
Either rubber stamp or.
Well, that's what I said, we got the cart before the horse.
How about this, the Board of Supervisors, a motion from the authority, I need to look at your notes in writing and come up with the motion, because it has to be perfect, so, do you have your notes there?
I have my notes here.
Yeah.
I don't know whether you'll be able to read them, but.
Yeah. Let me have I could fix this in 2 minutes.
Because I'm thinking the worst case scenario is we authorize it, and even if they agree, just so we dot our I's and J's and cross our T's. We have to have a second meeting just to,
To repair the.
so get everything, yeah, 'cause we have everything legal, otherwise we just open ourselves to.
So we have to go through 3 meetings,
No,
and we also have to get the quotes. Is that what you're saying?
No, the first motion was, we're gonna start doing everything.
Okay, okay, you're gonna start with.
This is just making sure that
Okay,
that everything gets handled so that the elected officials make the final decision. We're not elected.
so
we
this
want
is
them-
this is meeting 1, tomorrow's meeting 2.
And if necessary,
Which we should probably agree with,
we'll-
right?
A meeting for,
God,
yeah, and if necessary, we'll have a meeting 3 come in here and agree to what we just agreed to.
okay, okay.
But we
I
have
was
to
just
do
trying to
those
understand
steps.
So one's now, 2's within 24 hours.
And we're not gonna waste that time. He's gonna be getting those.
Do I have to show up tomorrow again?
No, man.
I mean, it would help, it never hurts.
You don't have to show up tomorrow.
12-hour days, and then I come to this.
Or just send, like, somebody, if somebody shows up and say, hey, we were at the meeting, this is what
I'll
I
be
think
there.
should happen. That can't hurt, because they're the elected officials. They can still say no to things we do, so we want them on board.
So I have one other question for y'all. I appreciate that the emergency motion completely. I will get you the information that you need. The rest of this has nothing to do with what's happening in Old River Road, is that correct?
Maybe, not, he still has to.
I mean, the engineer has to report.
I think she's asking if she can leave early.
Yeah, you can.
I have both raised my concerns, I appreciate your time.
You can go home and get rest.
I have had a very, very long day, this is the last thing I wanted to do. But, thank you all, thank you,
Thank you.
and thank you for listening.
we ready for this motion?
So you wanna verbalize it now?
I will verbalize it. The motion, who's making this motion?
If I'm allowed.
The motion, as Pat's saying, is to request the Board of Supervisors to authorize the RTMA to repair sewer lines in the vicinity of the Seifert area as necessary to remove or I&I conditions. I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Joe, could you email Rich with that so he can?
Yeah, you, John, or could you email me that tomorrow morning so I can just make sure I had a note for the board of supervisors tomorrow?
Have I failed?
You have not. You have not. I appreciate it.
You have,
Thank
you'll have it tonight.
Excellent. Even better.
You'll have to look for it though.
I'll see you in the morning. Busy chasing kids to bed.
Okay. I'm running out of paper.
Do you have any other concerns or?
You have any problems, Joe? Joe, do you have any problems?
No, I saw the water going out.
You mean in the basement?
This one's outside.
Yeah. Okay. That took care
Alright, I'll try to be as brief as I can. So our flow was, high in March, we treated, 9.5 million gallons for the month. So we are seeing some of the effects of that, I&I at the plant. Despite that though, the plant is running normally, we're getting good, permit numbers back, in compliance, which is good. I did some additional sampling for Keith, related to the permit renewal, so there was some additional metals testing and a few other parameters that we had to get going for Keith, so we took care of that. We had some minor maintenance at the plant. Our big item was the new gearbox for our final clarifier. The gearbox itself is installed. We do have to have the sprocket, the original sprocket machined to fit our new style gearbox. So that's being done now, so.
Fit the shaft?
Yeah, so the shaft is different on the new style gearbox as opposed to the original gearboxes, so we took that sprocket out to be machined so that it will fit. So that should be done this week and back operational on that. I touched on a little bit earlier, some of the manhole inspections that we did, last month and continuing this month. When we get the new camera system in, we plan to, get started right away. The one question I had was about authorization to the properties. If, I don't know if we'd like to maybe, if we have a right of way for those sewer laterals to get in onto those properties to run the cameras.
Split up the tractor down?
Well, no, not necessarily, it's, normally those traps are within 10 feet of the right of way, it varies. We have prepared a draft letter, me and Rich are working on this right now. That is gonna be asking those property owners for a release, to be able to go into the trap to TV the individual levels.
I'm thinking nobody's gonna give him a hard time.
I don't
No,
think
no.
so either, but, I know,
But technically, you need that release.
Because from where our lateral ends to the trap, that could be 6 feet, that could be 10 feet,
Right.
that's
Could be
their
3
property,
feet,
that's
could be
theirs,
10
but we can't legally enter that without that release.
so yeah, as soon as I get, word from the authority or Keith or Rich,
We're
that
gonna be getting
we
those
have
letters.
those letters out and they start to come back, we'll start handling them as
The
they
answer
come
might
in.
be implemented.
Properties that have the release.
Like you said, there's more than 18 sewer ordinances.
Um,
So the curb stops are not in the right of way, you let curb stops be put on private property with these laterals.
No, not, in water you have the curb stop, which the curb stop is normally right
With
at
the
the
trap.
property line.
Yeah.
But the trap is actually within, is not at the property
It's
line.
not at the property.
No, it's back into the property.
Somebody should have thought
yeah, that's, and it's different, different.
It varies.
It varies, the
Supposed to be within 10
distances.
feet for the property.
So we wanna have that in place, and if we can get something out as they come in, the ones that have signed the release, we'll start tackling them as they sign the releases, we'll go out and televise those laterals, and quite a few of them have been identified in Keith's report, that he'll cover. Go ahead.
John, I was gonna say, any more manholes that we need to address on our end? I know we had the two, I think it was 140 and 141,
Right.
that
There's
were underneath pavement.
There's manhole number 118, this would be on 724, it has a separated chimney,
It's like moved, shifted at the
it
top.
shifted.
Okay.
I'm thinking that might be a repair that
I'm thinking the
road
township
crew,
could
the
probably
township
move that
could
back on, it just,
handle.
it shifted off the top.
And it's on 724 proper?
Right off the side of 724,
It's
so
not in
you
the
wouldn't
road,
need
it's
to,
Up in Cypher.
No.
no.
What side,
it's,
it's on the south, it's on this, the river side of the road, yes?
It's
or-
on
no, it's on
the
the-
opposite side.
It's on the used car lot.
Which one was it? Hold on, let me take a look here. You said which one, 118?
Manhole
I see.
118.
Okay, I see it right
It's in
here.
front of Joel's there.
It's in front of an empty lot.
Yeah.
There's some trailers and
Yeah,
some other stuff
okay.
there.
yeah, that's right
It
down.
sits off the road, so you won't need any flaggers or any traffic control. You'd be able to work on that.
Yeah,
manhole.
there's a lot of work comes down through. There's a swale that comes down by there.
Yeah, so we have a separation of the chimney. There's also, a leak in that manhole that this would be something separate when we do the grouting.
Seal that.
So can we include these in the repairs that we're talking about as well?
We will.
All right, so let me know, because there's one area where we can assist,
That's
correct?
something you guys could.
Correct, yes, that's one area where,
To
I know we
reset.
talked about the risers as well.
Right.
So anywhere we see that, again, we're trying to make sure we're right sizing this as we go along, so that's one thing we can do. Perfect.
Thanks.
Didn't mind.
Thank you.
All right, so I'll hit that.
Unless there's, questions and comments.
You're gonna be
Did you-
televising it this week?
Well, the camera, the mainline camera will be in tomorrow, I believe, right?
Yeah, he's gonna be.
Mainline camera will be in
But the
tomorrow.
lateral, I'm
The
not sure
lateral
till we get the
camera,
letters out.
it
might
it
be
should
next
be
week.
shipping, should be shipped. It shouldn't take long to come in, I think within a week. Once we get the camera, I'd like to wait for those releases, whatever
Right.
Rich and Keith come up with to be signed. So that the property owners know that we're gonna be coming out onto their property, and then we're gonna run, like I said, we're gonna run that lateral camera both ways, from the trap to the main, and then from the trap to the house. And we'll have them all on USB drives, and then I'll be sending them over. Keith's kind of got a Dropbox compilation started of our work so far, so I'll send them to Keith, and Keith will have them to update the authority.
I know you're busy with a lot of other stuff, but
Sure.
we getting anywhere on getting quotes on our, grant so that we can spend it before it expires?
Well, I have a list going, me and
My
Keith-
guy's working on it now.
Yeah,
I don't have them in hand yet, but I
So,
already
yeah,
have someone working on our improvements. plan.
I have talked with Keith about some of the items, that we wanna get going. The big ones are the new sludge pump, new recirculation pump, those would be the big
And
ones.
the valves?
And
Valves, yeah, valves and
And my
associated
guy's gonna
piping.
be, I'm gonna be scheduling a site visit with John for my guys to do that. To
Yeah.
take photographs and get that all set up, but my guy has been making contact
Because
already
we're,
with the pump people.
Our December's our clock, isn't it?
It's, we got the award in December, and you got, 3 years to use it.
3 years.
But we still wanna do it sooner.
And what about the one we just got the extension on?
That's for a year, that's to the end of June, that's for pump station 2.
Pump station.
And we got all that on the way?
Well, that one we have to get out, we gotta get that one finalized to get out for bid. So my guys are working on that too.
Question. May the sewer operator go up to a property and just examine the trap unit itself? Without getting special permission, just to look at that, to make sure it's there and intact and, pardon?
Not if it's on private property.
He can view it from the road, but he
Yeah.
cannot technically go right up to it.
Right, without our permission.
That's why I was asking why, when the system was built, they should have made, you can have a two-trap system at least, but the trap should have been within the right of way, so that
Could have the clean out or trap.
the
back.
clean out.
Yeah.
I was always told the township's responsibility is from the trap to the main, and from the trap to the house was the homeowner's responsibility.
That's usually how it
That,
works.
yeah, there's a lot of,
Yeah, there's
townships
a
are
little
like that.
misconception on that.
But-
Generally, that's the way it works, but in our case, it's like me and Rich have discussed it. That trap is probably within anywhere from 0 to 10 feet.
Right, if the trap's at that line,
Yeah.
then it's not,
It could
then,
be.
then it could be, and then.
It could be, we could have something like that, but
But if it's sitting back, as it is with a couple of the properties that we've already discussed
That's what we're
this evening, there's one that's at least 6 feet back from where our lateral connects. So from the, essentially, I think it's the one on Main,
Yeah.
1377, it's 6
Yeah.
feet back. So again, that from where our lateral ends to that trap that's theirs, that's their property.
My question, reason for answering that was, I know a lot of those traps have settled over the years. Covers have been broken, and there's all kinds of things that can happen where water can infiltrate into it.
So,
And in my case, I had kids lift the cap off of it and drop stones in it one time.
So Gail, and the other thing Keith and I have talked about with this is and we've been working on this as well, as a letter really to our residents that are on the public source system to keep a couple of things in mind. Number one, letting them know about not having a sump hooked up to their line, letting them know that they should not have, that's part of the process. Public service announcement, if you will.
There's already a letter that we sent, so what you do is gotta get it out and change the date on it.
Yeah.
But,
Correct.
in regards to her, at some point, we have to ensure that that's basement drain is closed.
Correct, and those are the other things, so we're gonna have to go through and I'll have to take a look at those ordinances and see what we can do within those to go out and look at these basements and see what's
The
happening.
question is, does the SEO have more authority than he would if he went out to inspect the sewage problems?
no, not the SEO. The code enforcement officer, yes. Sewage enforcement officer only deals with on-lot sewer, not public. Your building code enforcement officer, though, deals with the building sewer line, which includes the trap,
So then,
and he has more authority.
yeah, so then maybe it's a case of getting the two together and going out and do these inspections. I mean, sending a letter, I think is the right thing to do, because I would wanna know, but,
We start there with the letter saying, hey, we'd like you to check these, if you're doing these things, please disconnect these so that, we're not getting the additional water into the system.
but, no, as far as televising the lines.
Right, well, that's a separate That's a second letter, that's requesting, that's a release for us to go
For
and
him
do
to
those
get on.
things, that's different than what we're suggesting here. Which is a letter to say, hey, please keep in mind these things, you should not have these things hooked up, it's just a public service announcement essentially.
I mean, you might be able to, you may not even be able to see the laterals from the street, they may have been covered up.
Yeah,
The
in
tracks.
some cases.
Yep.
Sure, absolutely.
And some of them have sank down and
Some of them, the caps are going, like at the Byler house, there was a pipe sticking up in the air, whenever the river came up, you got 4 inches of water.
Over top of that,
Yeah,
or more.
something's on it now, but it's still not the way it should be.
Yeah, Greg would come down and talk to her one day,
Didn't they,
This is a long one,
when the caps, like you have your vent cap and then was it clean out?
Yeah, I call them vent and clean out, yeah.
Do they have the insert that goes in the top of the cap?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was gonna take a ride over to Exeter Supply at some point this week and just get a price on some spare lids, some clean out lids, the brass screws, maybe a couple just, risers, replacements, things like that. Just have a general list put together. It's been a while since I've seen those, inflow preventer dishes.
Yeah, they unfortunately, don't make those anymore for the vent pipe.
For the vent,
Cause my neighbor had,
Because it was a venting issue,
Yes.
that's why they stopped making them. It was there,
yeah,
you could buy them, I forget, probably 10 years ago maybe, I don't forget
like
when
2 screws to hold
but
it
they
in.
stopped.
Yeah.
Yeah, my neighbor had asked me, because I don't know if it's his vent pipe, the cover was broke, and he put a garden gnome over top of it to keep the water out, and I'm not sure if it was the clean out one or the vent.
And if you cover the vent, you run the risk of getting the odor back into the house. So, if it's the clean out one, it's not as big a deal. But yeah, I'll try to get some pricing for some of those items that we may have to replace as we do this work.
I don't know how effective it would have been, because in almost every case that I saw them installed, particularly where they were cast iron pipes, the lids were just sat on the whole, there was no seal around it.
Yeah,
correct.
yeah, they just slide over the pipe.
It must be like 4 to 6 inches above grade.
That's it for me.
John?
Okay, a couple of things I have. The first one is, on Friday, I sent everybody a draft of a document I've been working on for some time, which is the amendment to an extension of the lease between the authority, and the township. As I said before in response to public comment, this is an attempt to update the 1986 lease to bring it into line with current conditions, with the 1986 guaranteed sewer bonds having been paid off in full, and the EPA grant agreement under which the plant was constructed, having long since expired, but to leave room for other financing, debt service, and grants. This would be similarly to the 1986 lease, for a similar term of 35 years. And it would continue with the current arrangement with respect to the lease of the plant.
You mean lease of the lines?
The lines, I mean, I shouldn't say the plant, the lines. Does anyone have any questions about?
I do. Now, I didn't spend a great deal of time over the weekend going through that, so I just kind of cursory. The word unbeknownst, we kind of knew it, and through personnel changes, it just got kicked to the side of legs.
Okay, well, I can just,
So I don't like the word unbeknownst,
okay,
because
and.
somebody wrote the last check for them and said, oh, we gotta fix this, and it just didn't happen.
Okay, well, and I can remove the term unbeknownst, if it's not the truth, I'll remove it.
And then, under Article 3, I think there needs to be something there that says, the Board of Supervisors agreed to guarantee whatever loans and bonds. And it does kind of refer to that later on, but I think the more you say it, the more it becomes real.
Okay, so maybe a section 3.03, Board of Supervisors guarantees, which is almost automatic anyway, because in any financing that by an authority, that guarantee would be required.
And then, in Article 4, we talk here about 150 feet of mandatory connection. Keith, does the low pressure system allow us to increase that footage? Because it doesn't care how many feet you are later because it floods. It's not gravity.
Well, all
But you're
Article 4
doing the mandatory, you're talking about the mandatory connection ordinance.
Right, the mandatory.
Could you
connection.
serve something greater? Absolutely you could, but I think the township code prohibits you from anything more. To say like, if you're within 300 feet of that, you shall connect.
Right.
I think that 150 is in the township code,
It is in the second class township code.
so unfortunately.
Because,
it's not.
you know, when we go
Yeah,
to do.
But you can, and that's the same with even a gravity system, if someone wants to connect further out, we have no problem with that, but you can't mandate connect. That's the difference.
All right. And, this thing refers to a lot of, resolutions, ordinances, and everything else. And I just took a cursory look at my notes, and I know that there's at least 18 ordinances that have something to do with sewer. So are we going to mark this against the ordinances that it requires the township to impose? To make sure that everything's being met, or are we just gonna say, yeah, what do they do?
No, I mean, we can compare it to the codified ordinance. I would assume that in 1986, the township did not have a codified ordinance in place, and that was more recent. Okay, so we can reference the codified ordinance and particulars and the sections of the codified ordinance.
And then, you know, something else I took notice that is, it only talks about improved properties. So we have properties that are not improved, and they're being charged sewer fees. Now,
That would be because they had purchased EDUs to improve the properties.
not in all cases. But I think somehow or another that should be either cleaned up in an ordinance somewhere. You know, the probable operable rule, which I don't think is struck to paper anywhere. And I think,
What, are you still in Article 4?
yeah,
Alright.
402 talks about that.
Okay, the township covenants has enacted an ordinance imposing sewer rental on charge of owners of improved property. I will check that reference in the codified ordinance.
And then, just a housekeeping thing for us, is the last time we increased the tapping fee, did we do a resolution?
Yes.
Yes.
I thought we did, okay. Oh, and then, page 11. The fourth paragraph's a large paragraph, starts off with if collections.
Yeah,
All right, if you get down to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, no, the ninth line, I think your period got lost.
okay, and any such.
Next to such.
Such, okay, yeah, it seems to be in a superscript. Remember that this was, we had to go through quite a bit to locate this document. We found it in our archived documents. It was a fairly poor quality PDF, scanned PDF that took a lot of secretarial time to convert it to Word. So I had to clean up quite a few punctuation issues, letters out of place, things like that. So
Well, so no, I'm not criticizing, I'm just saying.
yeah, no, I'm fixing it. I'll fix that, yeah.
Article 5, I just talked to you about that, that's the section that mentions what all those bank accounts are supposed to be.
I'll take a look at that.
Okay.
And,
So what are the payments? Those areas of blank and, who is
Those are our debt service payments, and I need to know if there are any current debt service payments, which I didn't know one way or the other whether there still were.
I'm not aware of any.
And I'm not aware of any
no,
either.
we
but I
paid it,
want-
we haven't incurred any future loans. So I think we might be on the hook for is matching grants.
Okay,
That's the only obligation.
percentage of matching of grant?
Right,
Okay, I understand.
Now,
okay,
now, in Article 6,
okay, let me just write this in, that there is no current debt service. Because I just wanted to have the placeholder there for any current debt service, Article 6.
Article 6, I think we should add some verbiage here that in the event that any grant or loans, we extend the length of this agreement to the duration of that loan.
Right.
Well, I was also, and this is just me, but, you know, we have 35 years, which I think was the original 35.
Yeah.
Must it be 35? Can
No.
we do 50? Can we do, I think some may
Well,
have done
you
it in perpetuity, I don't know.
The question is,
But we
what
have
is
to do
what is the length of existence remaining on the authority?
I say,
And, that is something that I
it's
would.
probably
need to-
longer than, it's probably
Yeah,
before
that-
the 35 years.
Right, and that's something that I would need to verify, but again, to keep this faithful to the original agreement, I used as a placeholder the 35-year figure.
Yeah, I guess the other thing is there a desire to extend that out?
Right.
And if that's the case, then somebody will look at that and when that expires, and if they're gonna continue it or not.
I mean, the extension of life of the authority is simply a Department of State filing.
Yeah, then, and,
Well, if, can you change that length of time, say, 15 years from now? We incurred a huge debt
They
for a
use-
project.
They would,
Then-
they
then
would
you
have,
could-
they would
you would
have,
have
they
to
would have
extend
to
that out.
amend it again.
Right, because the lender would,
Will require
any
it.
lender would insist upon that as part
Has to
of.
be
but
taken
that-
off.
that's
Yeah.
what, that's what I'm
Cover the
saying.
life of the loan.
So
But there
that
could be
verbiage,
in there that it will be extended to the end of that, whatever that obligation
Whatever
is.
loans or obligations, yeah.
And that's why they have to approve all our loans anyway.
The PCD, yeah.
On page 19, I guess maybe it's like the third line down, it says May 1st, 2059. It says may elect to pay the authority its assigned minimum net rental. Why would we agree that they may or may not do that?
You know, this goes to debt service.
Well, I don't want them the opportunity of not paying it.
You're talking about the board of supervisors not paying.
The Board of Supervisors, yeah. Yeah, let me look at that further, again, that's language that was in the original lease.
That doesn't mean it was right then.
Yeah, that may be, it may have been negotiated for a reason at the time. Most of the people who negotiated this are no longer with us, so.
Yeah, and then the next paragraph, it says, in the event the township on before September 1st of any leadership shall be determined to pay such lease. Now, how are we gonna operate if they determine not to pay us?
In accordance with the formula, shall give written notice of such determination, township, the authority, file with the township an officer's certificate which shall set forth debt service requirements, installments of adjusted minimum rental, and as long as remain outstanding, township shall be entitled to a credit against the minimum net rental.
It's a little too ambiguous for my mind.
It's because of debt service and outstanding debt at the time. It may not be of any application right now, so.
Well, regardless, it should not be an option if we have the obligation needed to meet it.
So this is a permanent lease, this isn't a, other than within the confines of the Authority Act, I don't see the word dissolve or dissolution in this. They
Right.
can't decide to dissolve the authority and we
Well,
can't.
actually, if you read this thing, we have the opportunity to tell them,
We're done.
no,
Oh.
they're done. And we can take over the whole system.
We can, yes, that option has always been there.
But they don't have the authority to take it, what is their property back?
No.
This is for 35
Not-
years with no,
Not, right, not the
Okay.
way this is written.
they don't all work that way.
Yeah, I know.
And when we get a chance to look at this as a board, believe me, it's something that's on my agenda. When you guys are done, I'd like to
Yeah.
comment.
Yeah.
After you all have an opportunity to,
I'm just more used to authorities that, at regular intervals, one side or the other indicate, in our view, in this, so we had to just say, okay, if you're not gonna pay us, we're gonna just,
Well, I mean, it goes beyond that, so like, we don't feel like they're collecting the money the way they should. We can,
The difference, Pat, is that you're used to what they call an operating authority.
yeah,
They're always
This is a
operating.
lease back.
this is a lease back.
Yes.
And that's,
Yeah, that's what I was
and
asking.
an operating authority is much more common. This is not.
This was established for purposes of financing in the 1980s.
609, I think, should be full.
609.
Yep.
That's here.
And then, Article 8 talks about the insurance.
Okay, yeah, that one I have questions on, Article 8.
Yeah, so somehow or another, I think it should go on a regular schedule that we get proof of the insurance annually. Just so that it's a check and a balance to make sure that we know. And also, I think Keith, you're on the hook for determining how much those amounts should be.
Yeah, we used to do that. We used to do that.
According to this, you're still doing it.
Okay. I'm just saying, it used to, when we had, yeah, it's different.
I mean, to me, some of the numbers looked a little low. And then, here, now I don't know how this is gonna work out with the people who are here. It says the township is responsible for maintaining liability insurance and property damage insurance. So I don't know whether, we're gonna file a claim or we're going to do some of this out of pocket. To make these people whole. So I don't know whether we, depending on the board of supervisors giving them a recommendation, or I don't think we can just arbitrarily decide which one we're gonna do,
No,
because it says the township. All right, we already talked about extraordinary repairs. Oh, yeah. I think somehow or other, we need to nail down section 10.4. Because that's what all the complaints here today were about. It says the township covenants to maintain the sewer system in good repair and operating condition to operate the same continuously in an economical and efficient manner. And it goes on. I don't know that we have clear roles and responsibilities. When you get the call, who you call. Yeah, so,
and you don't call us.
well,
My understanding was that's who I'm,
My
again,
understanding is, for the last several years, I've been trying to get calls.
so, let me finish that. So somehow or other, we gotta close that loop where somebody has to be on the hook for letting us know what the problems are, because here, once again, somebody got calls about, Nan's sewer backing up, and, I only found out by, her showing up at the meeting the other night. So it's just kinda like a check and a balance, to make sure that something is going on.
so where does that flow go to though? I mean, where should that happen? No pun intended. No, so seriously, where does that go?
Well,
As manager, I wanna make sure we're doing the right things here. If I'm getting this to John and to Keith, and then Keith turning around and where one of them is turning around and giving it to you as the RTMA, does that then flow back to the board from you? Or how should that work? You should be,
I don't know how you're communicating with him, but I mean.
when they come in, I give an email, I type up the address, if they have pictures with it, I send the pictures along, and show that it's about the
I mean,
situation.
how difficult it is, it's just to copy us on it, and then Keith is generally pretty good about letting us know what the disposition of it was.
Yeah, normally I report to Keith, cause Keith is kinda like my office support guy while we're out in the field. So I relay what we're seeing to Keith, to get feedback, well, you know, how should we handle? And that's usually the way I've been doing it, you know, going to.
Like I said,
I think there's a lease agreement, there's also the procedural element to this that we need to clarify, and that's separate from the lease agreement
Well, I
itself.
And I
think
think
John
it's
and
time.
Keith are the two main people that get calls right away.
Correct, yes, because
And
that
then-
needs to be, because that's getting it in process.
And then possibly when the feedback comes back to you, then all that information
goes
gets
to
sent to us
us.
and supervisors.
I think that this lease is maybe a good opportunity to bring into line the actual practice with the document.
yeah, like I said,
And have a document that says what's actually done, because things aren't done the same way they were in 1986.
No.
yeah, probably you didn't have the internet then.
Now, yeah,
But, you know, there's more than 18 ordinances that affect sewer. So somehow or other, we need to figure out which ones are still valid, which ones aren't. And the ones that are valid, I think we probably ought to create one and consolidate everything, because this is quite laboring
Now,
trying
is
to.
that public sewer or is that on lot sewer
Most,
too?
most of those 18 are public sewer.
right, right, because I was looking at it today for something, and yes, most of it is public sewer, and the requirement of being connected to public sewer.
There's probably another 10 for on-lot systems.
Yeah, it's a separate part of
And then
that
Geiger
section.
Town's even a couple more. And then, you know, something I was never really clear on is, it says in here that township supervisors have to pass either a resolution or ordinance requesting us to expand or do whatever the system.
What section are you on?
I don't know what section it was in, but it's in there. And, you know, so does the 537 plan suffice as that request? So we have to sewer Green Hills Lake. It's part of 537 plan is no getting around it. Do we have to have a special ordinance or resolution from the board of supervisors?
In my opinion, would not be, you wouldn't need a special one, you would have to be advised that that is what they adopted. And I
Okay.
think you should be part of that whole process, like when that plan's prepared. It's gotta be reviewed.
Yeah.
By planning commission and the authority and everyone. It's a township document.
Right,
Yeah,
and then
right.
when it's adopted, it's
Yeah.
adopted by
Yeah,
resolution, so.
it is adopted by resolution by the township supervisors.
So then our work at Green Hills is kosher, we don't have to worry about
No.
any of these stuff.
No, we're implementing the Act 537 plan, in my opinion, that's what we're doing.
Yeah, I think we're doing, supposed to be doing.
One other mention. I think attorneys just in general do this and it just drives me nuts. What revision of this document is this?
Well, it's not, this is a first draft, if you'd like it labeled as version
Yeah,
one.
because when something changes, then we know there's something changed.
Okay, I can even put it in the watermark to label it as.
Yeah, that'd be
number
fine.
one, and
And then I think when it goes final, we should have a date or something on it to say, this is effective this date.
Yeah, I mean, what we can do also is put in the, well, there's gonna be an effective date, and you're gonna have the signed document, but you can also have the date in the footer, I mean, there's ways of doing that.
Well, you guys will have to prove this too.
Yeah, the township has to approve
Yeah,
it as
so-
well.
They'd approve it here first and then get it to township, correct?
Well, what we would do is, no action needs to be taken on it tonight. What I'd like to do is make some of the revisions, you all may have some other questions about it. And then from there, we would, send it to the Board of Supervisors, to the Township Solicitor, and onto the Board of Supervisors, for review and comment. and we sit down, and it wouldn't be a joint meeting, it'd be a meeting between myself, township solicitor, and perhaps, one or two supervisors. To just iron it out and have a working draft that can be sent to both for ratification.
Unless there's other comments, I'll hold my comments till your board's done, your authority's done.
Are you done with your legal report? The
Well,
entirety of it?
Well, I'm not done with the entirety of it because we have to talk about the Green Hills agreements. We have the pump and hole that we discussed last month, and that's fine, and that's ready to, I believe that's ready, for execution. And then, but there's also, an improvements agreement for the wastewater treatment plant that, Keith has some comments about, with respect to the amount.
Excuse me 1 second, I'm looking at the agenda, is this pump and home model on the agenda?
It's under, it would be under, we'd consider it under Green Hills Estates.
Green Hills Estates collection system.
Okay, so we've skipped into the engineer report.
Well,
I'd like to make,
We're not gonna skip into the engineer's report, you were asking if I was done, and those are just I'm just telling you what we have.
So that would be in the engineer's.
We'll put it in the engineer, we'll do it with the
That's all I was
engineer's report. Yeah, that's fine.
Yep.
If you would like to, if you have some comments about the lease,
Yeah.
great.
with respect to the lease, 35 years from 1986 means this was supposed to be done in like 2021?
Yes.
Okay, so, I've said that and I've said this before, we seem to be constantly behind the 8 ball, constantly off focus. Now, there's gonna be an issue where there are 2 sides to this lease. Our chairman sits on both boards. I see that's an inherent problem. There are 2 parties to this lease, and I'm gonna look at things closely, because it hasn't been done. We've got a conflict of interest. I think now that this has been discussed publicly, it should be sent to the board, my board, that's my opinion. You have your own solicitor. But it highlights why my own position is that a municipal solicitor, an authority solicitor, can also be a township solicitor, in my opinion. I don't know that that's necessarily against the law, that's somebody else's opinion, but that's, my opinion is there are 2 distinct different entities. And I'm sure not just because of these most recent developments, we seem to have been struggling for years with simple things, even within my board, the collection of the money. It's been a problem. So I'd asked if the board, if this authority is comfortable to send the draft, to our board of supervisors. I'd ask Chris to abstain in any voting on both issues, he's now seen stuff. I don't think it's gonna be, in my opinion, it needs to be scrutinized closely. Any lease for that long time, any lease this important, we've fallen into a lot of bad habits, guys. That's the bottom line.
Just out of curiosity, with him being on both boards and that being a conflict of interest, what are we trying to protect against? I mean, if he abstains, what's the bad thing that we're trying to protect against?
He's not indicated he's going to abstain, but the bad thing in the township, if it is a bad thing, is we need to get involvement within the boards, more involvement. We don't need the supervisors.
Him being on 2 boards.
Right, the law allows, let's just make something clear, the law allows Dr. Smith to be on both boards. That is perfectly legal, just so you're aware of that there's no violation of any statute being led. The authority is a different body, this is not like the zoning hearing board where it's not specifically not allowed, this is allowed. It's just like a member of the Board of Supervisors can serve on the Planning Commission. Now, if Supervisor Bittler believes that there's a conflict of interest, he's raising it now. Dr. Smith is permitted to make that decision for himself as to whether to recuse or not. If you obviously have a right to, where you can take it further. I don't need to advise you if you're concerned about it. I mean, this is between the township and the authority. There is an inherent adversariality between, in a negotiation of a lease. However, I'm not convinced that the interests are completely different when you're dealing with a leaseback authority. But again, that's a decision that you'll need to make as both a supervisor and a member of this board. I think the safest position may be recusal, but that's something you need to consider for yourself.
Now, by way of follow-up, I'm not suggesting that it's against the law. What I'm suggesting is it's not the best prudent way to do it. To get people involved, I asked him to step off the Environmental Advisory Council, and he did. I believe him to be a gentleman. But we need to open up this, a la the YouTube. We need to have public interaction, public input. That's my position. It's not a matter of being legal. I mean, I have trouble ratifying something that I don't know exactly what happened back to 2021. Tell me why the lease wasn't done. When the Board of Supervisors in that document is gonna have unconditional guarantees, is that not the language, Ms. London?
Excuse me?
Unconditional guarantees, there's references to that.
There's references
On the
to
Board of
guarantees.
Supervisors. That should concern people. You should at least know those issues.
I asked, what bad thing could Chris do? Anybody do? Like what, I'm missing something of why this is even an issue and why it's even being brought
When
up.
Ms. London says there's an inherent adversarial issue, there are two parties to this lease. And there may be things that the board, we don't want. And there may be things we wanna change that you don't wanna do. How does that man juggle all of that? It's basically inherently not a good
We
idea.
talk about it and we vote. My understanding was he only votes if we have to, tiebreaker.
You mean on this board?
No,
Or something like
yeah,
that.
no,
I mean-
no, that's not the case. Now, again, I happen to believe that an individual can serve on both boards. My personal belief is that the safest position, in that position, since this is a lease between the two, a contract, is the safest position is to recuse. However, again, I can't order you to recuse. It's your decision. I believe if I were sitting in that seat rather than this one, I would recuse.
And it's not that I said he couldn't, I said it's he shouldn't. That's my opinion. He's an adult, he can do what he wants to do. He shouldn't.
I don't wanna keep going with this, but I was trying to understand
So,
the.
let me try to help you here. So technically, because we're negotiating a contract against the township, we should probably have done this in an executive session. In which case, he probably should have been left out of the room because we're negotiating against him.
Right, well, this is not
But-
something that.
but this is-
It's not a
this is-
personal financial.
Okay, this is
not
that
executive
kind of deal. But there is a clause in here though that I think it should be, if that's gonna be a problem, should be addressed, only because it requires him to request from this board something, and maybe change that verbiage to something else. Or it requires the
I
chair.
think we're getting a little off topic, is he can serve on both boards. If in good faith, he decides to vote for on one board or the other, he can do that, he should recuse himself at least in one of the votes. It's up to him to do what that's his good faith effort, and that's good enough.
John, I thought there was something either in the second question.
I would tend to recuse on both, but that's
Okay.
on this matter. On most matters, there's no recusal needed, but on this, again,
So is recusal different than an abstention?
recusal is sort of a blanket abstention, means not participating in the discussions or in the decision.
Okay, now, just more for my education, there was something in the training that I've had so far that indicated that the only time an abstention was warranted or allowed was when there was a financial interest involved.
Well,
Now, and again, maybe I missed something, it's more of my education on this,
It
so.
can be a personal interest such as a voting conflict. There is
Okay.
such thing as a voting conflict.
But my understanding was when you recused, you either had to state the reason at the meeting or provide a written explanation to.
Right, and you would do that, and the abstention that you put in the minutes is because I serve on both boards.
So just because you don't like something, don't mean you can abstain.
No, that's not.
Okay, that's what I was trying to get at.
Now I understand, thank you. understand that dynamic.
So far, we haven't really talked about runs, so I don't think we're crossing bridges, we're just talking about limiting, presenting
Right,
the RTMA side to the board of supervisors.
right, there are no amounts of money that are filled in, and this has to be revised because he confirmed that there is no outstanding debt service, so some aspects of this will be revised and then turned over to the township solicitor for review.
So, the part I was looking at is, it says, under extraordinary repairs, it says, any
Okay,
such,
what section?
9. It says that any such request in writing shall be signed by the chairman or vice chairman. So if he's gonna serve on both, you probably should just not do that and let the vice chair sign.
Yes, I agree.
Although when somebody sits down in front of you, you have to sign it.
All right, again, what I'd like to do is I'd like to make some revisions and forward to the township solicitor.
Do you need us to authorize you to do that?
No, this is just part of my authorization to prepare the lease. The other is covered under the engineer's report.
Okay,
All right, Keith.
okay, just, update on, the Greenhouse Lake Allegheny Creek Corridor Project, we're still, finalizing the plans on that. My staff is putting together permit applications. We still need to get the easement information to Joan. I think we've resolved design up there in that Hillside 7 area. So my guys just have to finalize those plans so there will be an easement needed there just because of the way that road network is and the way the land is. So I think we're looking at 3 easements right now, as we talked about before. So we'll compare those documents and send it to them, and then the negotiations will begin. So we'll follow up with Joan on that. So I don't really have too much more to go over on that project.
Well, did we hear anything more about that grant?
No,
And,
you did send me that information, I see.
yeah, well, there's, new grants becoming available. Our good friend who canceled our grants, did tell me that there are new grants coming available. So, as soon as I get an email, I'll pass it on to everybody, and then we can decide what we wanna do then.
That's good. Okay, so then, just moving through my report, to make this quick, Green Hills Estates, development, as Joan mentioned briefly there, she's put together, the final draft, I guess you wanna call it, of the
Final
improvements
draft.
agreements,
Right, and
for the various steps. What I'm going to hand out, I think if everyone could just take one of those. I'll just briefly go over these cost estimates. Now, I haven't given all the backup fluff that we got. We got a bunch of information here, but I'll just go over these quickly. The top cost estimate that you're looking at would be related to the collection system there. Now, the collection system, if the board can recall, has already been installed. It's been inspected, it's been tested, okay? So it's good. We now go into what they call the maintenance period of that. We could go into the maintenance period where you have a maintenance period. Now, before we would take over anything, we would need to have as-built drawings for that, which we have not received yet. And we would also need to have a final television inspection of all the lines, and they would have to be repaired if any deficiencies were noted. Okay, so that would happen during this whole maintenance period. But based on the improvements being completed, and they never did post financial security for that construction. but that's in the past. We're just moving right into the maintenance period. The maintenance security, the way the improvements agreements are set up would be for 15% of the total amount. So the original total cost was $395,610.05. 15% of that would be $59,341.50. So I think within Joan's maintenance agreement for the sewer collection system, she has an amount listed.
Yeah.
They would have to post financial security in the form of either a letter of credit, bond, or whatever Joan would feel acceptable,
I
correct?
mean, the letter of credit is the better, type of financial security than the bond, or cash, cash or letter of credit is better. This is for the 15%, which is $59,341.50. And, it is for a period of 18 months.
And what all was that covering?
That's just the collection system, the internal
Right.
gravity collection system within Green Hills Estates itself.
And we're not scheduled to take that over for 5 years.
Whenever that would, yeah, it could be, yeah. It would depend on, basically, I think it would hinge on when that first connection would be made to come in from the outside. I think that would be the driving force.
Right, yeah, right.
So it could be
As far
5
as-
years.
Right, so.
Us taking that plan over.
Right, so in order,
Well, they-
for us to take dedication, they would have to post financial security of the $59,341.
No, we're
Now,
not
that,
taking
is that
that.
just for the lines?
That would be the collection system, yes.
Just the collection
Yeah,
system. We'll
okay.
talk more about the next phase. So that's just, I'm just gonna go over on one thing at a time here, and then you can have a total number when you add
Okay,
it
so
all up.
we're taking over the collection system even before they build the plant.
No,
No.
Okay, I just wanna be
And,
sure.
and maybe this agreement needs to be clearer about that, because
Yeah.
it makes it look like I'll make. a
they
quick
could
change to that.
offer it to you before that, but it doesn't mean you have to take it.
Right,
Yeah.
so, I mean, I'm looking at the timeline, I think we need to take this out to what the 537 plan said, which is 5 years, after our first connection.
We could reword it to match that.
Yeah, I'll make a quick change to that.
Let me know when we get to that part.
Yeah, I do have record drawings, and it has built record drawings
Okay,
from elsewhere.
as-built record drawings, I'll
Yeah.
make that change as well.
That'll save the headaches sometime.
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Yes.
okay, I'll make that change and get that done, all right.
So the next cost, if you turn to the second page, the next cost estimate that we have, and we're just breaking it out just because of the way they structured their cost estimates to me, is for what we call the off-site force main. Now, the off-site force main is when it comes off their site, it runs down 568 and then through an easement to get over there to the Allegheny Creek, which they secured that easement before for that. So that is that portion of the force main that's not on their site. So they gave us a cost estimate there for the cost of that force main, which was like $184,500, till you add in the construction observation, the admin, the contingency, as-built record drawings, etc. And then the additional security of 10%, the total escrow or financial security to be posted for the off-site force main would be $300,300. So that's just for that portion of the work. Now, I don't know that Joan has a separate agreement for the off-site force main.
Yeah.
We'll figure this out, but I just wanna show you the cost, and we'll come up with the total number. So that's that one. The next cost estimate that you're looking at would be for the treatment plant for what they call phase one. Phase one being, it's gonna be set up as a 2-train plant, but they're only gonna put the first train in, which will allow them to serve their 55 lots. Everyone's on board with that. So that's what the phase one. Phase two would then be putting the second train in to serve the off-site or Green Hills Lake area.
My concern is they're not posting security to do that, and he sat there here the other night at the township supervisor's meeting and basically said, they may do it.
Okay,
Later on, he recanted and said, no, we're gonna do it. But,
okay, well, I have a cost estimate for that too, so we can,
so,
that's
I
what
mean,
we,
I think that needs to be included.
well, that's where we need some direction from the board, and that's what I wanna talk, me and Joan both wanna talk to you about that. So anyway, I just have it set up for the phase one because that's the way they presented it to us in his email. So the first, phase one, plant cost, the actual plant cost itself from the vendor is $301,258. The installation cost, which they provided us with an installation, proposal from MGK Industries. I can tell you they are a very reputable contractor. We have worked with them on many jobs, so I would have no problem with them doing the construction of a treatment plant or pump station, okay? They're pretty good, so at least they have a reliable contractor. So that cost estimate was $1,046,000 to install that plant, which included mostly everything, but then they had a separate line item cost breakdown for the influent pump station, for the plant, which is $89,800 for that. So you come up with the total cost for the plant, the pump station, and the force main within their site. And it's, and then adding all the construction observation, the admin, the as-built record drawings, additional security of 10% in accordance with the MPC, we're up to $1,804,063.80. Now, I don't want to get into bore the board with a lot of details, but in reviewing the proposal, and I spoke with John briefly about this, the way this proposal for the plant was broken out, their base cost, and I say base cost, was using what they call regenerative blowers, okay? It's a specific type of a blower. John's probably more familiar with than me because the other option, and I'll be on the next cost estimate, is called positive displacement blowers. Positive displacement blowers is what we have down at our plant. Very common in treatment plants. It has been used for many, many, many years. I don't necessarily have a problem with the regenerative blowers, but there's an adder cost for the positive displacement. I know they're more expensive, but they're also proven that they work. I'm not saying that the regenerative blowers don't work. I think John has some experience with them, but not so much, I don't think, in treatment plants. Am I correct, John?
Yeah, I've had experience with them as, in pump stations and, turning your pump stations from anaerobic to aerobic, to help
Normally
break
smaller
down.
pumps.
Yes,
Smaller blowers.
Yeah, they're usually smaller blowers from what I've seen, and they're like a single unit. With positive displacement, you have the motor, and then you have the blower unit, and then you put them together, and that gives you your. They're kind of the regenerative are kind of built into one unit. So when it goes bad, it doesn't matter if it's the motor or the blower. The whole thing is got to go out or get rebuilt or get scrapped and get a new one. So it's not like a two-component system. That's typical. So
the other cost estimate, which is just a little bit slightly more, to use positive displacement blower, if you flip the page, there's an adder for the positive displacement blowers of roughly $21,000 to the cost. Now we could go, once again, when a developer gives you something, they aren't saying, this is what, they try to, I wouldn't say hide it, but they give you the information, but they don't say, this is what you're getting. So I don't know what we're getting, okay? I'm thinking they're gonna give us the cheapest thing, would be normally. So if the board wants the positive displacement blowers, we could force that issue. Now, the other option, and I talked with the treatment plant rep because I know them, I just said, hey, what's the cost for these regenerative blowers? If we go with that option, I would think that we would want spares, okay? So maybe, if we go with the regen, John's had success with them, but I would say, let's get some spare blowers so if one goes out, you have it. Now, the other thing I noticed in this proposal, there was recommended spare parts, but there's no cost, it's like optional. Okay, well, what's the cost for the spare parts? It's not in there. So I mean, if we're taking over a plant, you would want spare parts inventory. Now, what I did, just so everyone's aware, and I don't know what those things will be, I have a call into the vendor, but I don't have the numbers. But I put in a 5% contingency in these cost estimates. Now, would that cover the spare parts and things?
Maybe.
Probably, I don't know. but we don't, you know, there could be other things that come up too, but I put something in for it now to at least have a number. But I still would feel more comfortable if I got a number from the vendor. Now, I think we probably, between me and Joan, if I have to go back and forth with the developer on this and his legal guy to work this out, to hash it out.
Does this plant have a perfume pump on it?
No, not that I'm aware of.
You
Odor
know,
control,
yeah, we ran into that problem out of Geiger County.
right,
And, you know, I think anytime you do Ford, oh, this isn't Ford, this is driving, the other side of me.
right.
There was one issue, I don't think I saw, I'm just trying to think ahead, because I know at some point you'd like to put a second train in there, correct?
Yeah.
I haven't seen any layout design of what you'd call like the operations building that's gonna house the blowers, I'm just trying to look ahead a little bit. But, you know, is there room in there, is there provisions to add extra equipment for that second train?
Yes,
Okay,
the building is big enough and then they'll have the room for the extra blower.
yeah,
when
as
the
long
second
as it's
train comes
built
on.
for,
Yeah,
you know, to.
that is laid out in there, it's just they weren't gonna put the initial blower in, they weren't gonna put that train in. So what I have to hand out now, which I should have handed out.
I'd also like to see some information put in that agreement that they're installing the second train with us having the option of paying for the time, that way we don't have to pay feedback to him for the.
Right, so
second train.
the second train that we're talking about, just so everyone can see, the way they had presented the second train in their cost estimate was, once again, the plant cost for just the second train, material-wise from the vendor, is $187,543. Now, that's the base cost with these with a regenerative blower to come with it, okay? And then the next page would be, if you went with the positive displacement, it adds another $5,300 to it. And then the installation cost, which MGK provided a separate cost for that, was $212,000. So, you know, it's kind of like, I don't know when I say economy of scale or whatever, but that initial plant that goes in is the building and everything. That's why that number is so high. This one, you already got the building there. All you have to do is put a blower in, hook up the piping, the fittings to it. That should all be there, just a little bit of piping and
And it makes sense.
It makes
because
sense, right.
You may not need it for 5 years.
Right, so it makes sense, so, you know, adding the second train in there, like I quote in here, is another, you know, $450,000, whatever, round numbers. So, I guess, once again, the question to the board, I mean, you want us to push for positive displacement blowers, spare parts, and then also the second train? I mean, that's, I think, the direction me and Joan, correct, Joan?
Yes.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but.
If I may?
Yeah, to put the
Yeah,
number in.
I looked for the board.
If I may, yes, because with the positive displacement blowers, you're gonna reduce the corrosion, that's gonna, you don't have those in there. They'll give us extra regenerative ones, but it'll be not right away. But it'll be a maintenance nightmare later on.
And we've had,
We have them,
they're noisier, but they last, and they're probably, I'm telling you,
They also put out more
Yeah.
pressure, that's the
They
thing.
will.
and it'll push out that corrosive air more frequently, it'll circulate it, pressuring them to do that, because before we take it, if we take it without that, then we're just getting a problem later on that we don't need.
So you want positive
Yes.
displacement blower and spare parts?
Always fair.
Yeah.
we'll push for that.
There should be one spare of everything,
And a generator.
and you can sell that to them, because,
That was also on the thing, but that's not in here, but he said that, that's something
you
that,
know, cause we're
Subject
holding
to
their money for
future
18 months,
negotiations.
and I guarantee you that that'll be the pressure we put on him, is to make sure nothing is rusted. Cause that'll just be a warranty issue for them anyway.
Now, that generator, that was with what
Couples, that was.
Gary Couples.
Couples.
they just
So-
wanted to have it as a like an emergency standby call, and they'll have a hookup there.
Right, now, has Green Hills State now mentioned anything about, other than, or wasn't the generator brought up as
It
far
was,
as?
it was brought up in some discussions,
And
he
how
said he
they-
would
how they
consider it, he
received that?
he didn't offer it, they said they would consider it. I think probably like the same thing you heard, whatever, when they said, well, we'll consider putting it in. I think that's what they said about that
And the
also.
second part is, do you want the second train included?
In the,
In the
in the financial security
For the cost
posted.
estimate, yeah.
That's, yeah, I mean, it's
Now,
not,
that second train would be at our expense, or,
well, they have to put it in, we still have to negotiate who's paying for what. That's a separate, it's a matter of, you know, if you're gonna, you know, do you want him to post the money to put that second train in or not?
Well, so if we almost have to, and the reason I say that is because if we have to put it in, we have to do prevailing wage.
Oh,
And
yeah,
it's gonna
I'd
cost
much
us
rather have them
serious-
do it, that's sure.
Serious more amount of money.
Yeah.
And I would sooner him put it in, us paying, and call it a day than, you know,
Would you be, and I'm not trying to be devil's advocate, but remiss to say he could post it prior to that, rather than not initially. You know what I mean, like, he would post it prior to ordering it or whatever.
well, no, because, you know, my feelings are, he has to be on the hook to do
You wanna
this.
do it right,
Right.
I mean, you know,
As
I
well,
mean,
no.
you know,
I'm just thinking that might be a feedback to get from.
I think that's what we said at the last meeting,
Yeah.
that we prefer them to order it right away.
well, not order it right away.
Or-
Order it, but they said, you wanted to know the cost.
Post
That's
the
what it is.
financials.
But they have to be on the hook for purchasing and the price is the price and we'll pay it. Now, at some point, we're gonna have to decide, what a user rate up there is gonna be.
That's, we have to get hooked with all the numbers, yes.
And then, I guess there's a lot of answers, there are questions that need to be answered.
Yeah,
before we
there's
get
a lot of work that still has to be done.
And then there's reimbursements for them.
Well, and that's
Well,
also,
see, and that's why I said
Right,
about
that's-
us paying.
that's the next thing, that's the next hurdle.
That's the next agreement.
This is the- yeah.
Well, that's
reimbursement
why I
agreement.
was saying about, us paying for that second train.
And the reimbursement is capped at 10 years under the Authorities Act, and we would want an agreement in line with that.
So how much does he get reimbursed for?
Reimbursed for the connections for a
From
period of
Green
10
Hills.
years for what we put in for the connections outside of Green Hills.
Oh, outside of his development?
Yeah.
And we're gonna determine that's gonna be our tapping fee or?
Well, we have to work, we have
That's
to,
a component of the
Yeah,
tapping fee.
that's
There's
component.
a number of components to the tapping fee, and that's one of them, is the reimbursement component.
You're saying he needs 22 homes to make that plant operational.
yes, that's
Right,
what they're, that's what they're saying.
the pump and haul agreement.
That's what they're set
yeah.
up for, yes.
And he's actually looking at having them built by December,
Of
if I
what
read this
year?
correct. This year, so.
Yeah. Yeah, this year.
Yeah, said 8 months, yeah.
How many years have we heard that too? But I don't see it, because interest rates are probably gonna go up again.
So I think we got at least enough direction as far as to try to work on the cost, right, Joan?
Yeah.
I don't know what motions you want from
Uh,
the board.
One thing, two things about these agreements. Once again, there's no date revision, you know, you don't know whether this is the first one, the last one, or the one in between.
I'll watermark them.
And the second thing is I like to see initials page, initial boxes on each and every page for both parties.
I can have that.
Because, we've had the experience where somebody has removed a page, inserted another one. And if you need to initial every page, that eliminates that process.
I can do that. I've done that for Will, so we can do that here.
Not on this.
I know, I'd like to see more than 22 homes
I know we're.
hooked up to that
It's
before
buried in there.
our 5 years start,
So,
Okay.
that's the one I just got.
because
Are you sure?
initially they wanted,
Take a look at that.
previous owners wanted like consider their connections, one or
Right.
two of their connections
Yeah.
that 5 years.
Yeah, no.
So I would like to see more than 22 homes. personally.
So, Joan, and I'm bringing this question up because I know you guys have been talking about this, so I received one pump and haul
Right,
today signed from
from City or?
from Argus City,
Yeah,
okay? So I received that. And then I also received a stormwater and a developers improvement agreement, but that's specific to Robeson Township. There's also this land development agreement, which is developed between the RTMA and,
for the
So that's-
wastewater treatment plant, that is separate.
that's separate. Okay, I just wanna make sure I'm tracking on this so that I know the
Yeah,
full
I mean,
picture, yeah.
there's a couple of things. What you have between the authority and 2000 Perkiomen, Largo City, is you'll have a maintenance agreement for the collection system.
Right,
You'll have a land development improvements agreement for the wastewater treatment
It's
plant,
not filled
again,
out.
between the authority.
It's not filled out.
The plan will
There's
include.
Right.
no dollar amount also.
Right,
That's
and
here.
enforcement.
We'll add,
Okay,
and outside that offsite.
I caught that too.
Right, so for the wastewater treatment plant and the force main.
It
And
looks
the
something
pump
like
and, the pump
I
and
didn't go
haul,
through line by line.
yeah, the pump and haul we had talked about this at last month's meeting, that we were in agreement with the pump and haul agreement as it was.
So, now that brings up our question, Harold put the same thing up that I did. They've signed this, but there's no dollar amount assigned to
Right, we have to, that's something, we do have to fill in the amount of
financial security.
financial
Right.
security.
So that comes from us then.
That's gonna be part of that
That will be.
treatment plant
Okay,
number.
got it.
And you guys still need to negotiate that.
Yeah, we'll
So
come up with,
you're gonna have to negotiate by tomorrow because they're looking for this thing to be signed tomorrow night.
Yeah, because
Am I
on the
not right?
agenda, there's
Well,
4
that's what, yeah, so there's,
I think
this is
I
coming
think you
along
have
two lines at the
contingency
same time.
approval, but not a
Right,
signature.
it will be a contingent, approval
Okay,
contingent
here's
on,
what's on our agenda for tomorrow, those 4
Right.
things there.
right, it'll be an approval contingent on the amount of
We're
financial
looking to
security,
Get signed tomorrow.
right, authorizing the execution. Well, we are close, I mean, I'll talk to Attorney Orlando tomorrow morning,
Me,
first
Mooney.
thing.
Oh, okay, sure.
Yeah, well, there's two pieces, yeah.
Right, yeah, we'll
So
talk.
at this point tomorrow, that's not happening.
It'll be, again, it'll be contingent approval, it won't be, it's
Well,
it's authorization, right, it's authorization,
On the amount.
right, it's
Subject to
authorization,
the
yeah,
amount.
subject to the amount, because it's, again, we're very close.
So does then Tom sign this evening on behalf of the RTMA as was approved in
Sign.
the minutes from the last meeting?
I would say sign the pump and haul agreement,
Right, that's,
Yes.
okay, so he and I will sign that this evening, or
Right.
I'm secretary's actually
yes,
somebody different
you
here,
can,
but,
you can sign the pump and haul agreement.
okay. Alright, so Tom, you might wanna slide it down.
We need to make a motion that,
Yeah, that was already.
That was already motioned last,
That was already
last
last
meeting.
month,
so it's just time, so the secretary
what's that?
and the secretary. Do a test. Oh, secretary.
I'm going to pick up my kilt in a couple of months. I'm gonna pick up my kilt. Sure.
Blackwash.
And then that will be for Chris and I to sign it tomorrow. No, I have the other two here. Okay.
I have enough there. Maybe.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that.
I just wanna, I know we're wrapping up here, it's long. But on the results of the TV inspection, I think I sent out an email on this, but I still want everyone to have a hard copy. This is just a very quick summary of the findings from Ditch Creek when they did the televising work out there. So you will see a lot of those things, I'll say infiltration, gusher, runner, leaking joints, and if you look at it closely where you see the VCP, that's the clay pipe, where it'll say like 9 joints are leaking, 13 joints are leaking, 4 joints are leaking, whatever. And some of that is depending on the pipeline, that's why you're gonna have more joints leaking because it's a longer run. But predominantly it's up there majority is at that railroad track area where the clay is. But we also saw a lot of laterals with clear water coming in.
Two questions.
Yeah.
One is, we obviously can't line that with it being full of water.
There's, timing will be, yeah, that's one of the issues. It's gotta probably be somewhat dry. They can line, but they gotta be careful if it has too much pressure coming in, it won't take right. It won't cure right.
Second question, is there any opportunities to dig holes near where we think the water is infiltrating and giving it an easier path out as opposed to going in our pump to, our pipes until we fix it?
There's probably a way to do that, but that, you know, that would certainly take some engineering. It's not,
Oh, back on a pump.
you know, it could be done, I'm not saying it can't.
I mean, I'm just
Yeah,
thinking,
no,
because
you,
this is gonna keep
you're
languishing on.
basically doing like a groundwater pump and you're moving it to somewhere else for it to flow somewhere else, if you can pump it into the storm sewer line or whatever, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it takes a little bit of creativity to figure out where that could go. But I think, you know, the first step that I think is we have to get a cost to line those clay pipes. I know that, I'm sure, I haven't seen the video, but I saw the outlet of the pipe of what's coming in there. And the one manhole at the end, you pop the manhole, you can hear it pouring into the pipe.
Well, I think that's at the corner of Cypher here where it goes
You can
around
hear
here. It's always been that way.
Can somebody just help me out just a little? So manhole 145 and 145.
That's all the way at the top of Cypher, that's at the
At
end.
the circle.
Yep,
Okay. And then 143 is about where?
working its way down Cypher from up top.
Is that where the road caved in?
Well, that's what I'm trying to ask. I know 237 is the address where you can see the road work was done, so that's suspicious. But that can't be the only place, because you're saying the water's coming in 245,
Yeah,
which is up at the circle, and that's higher elevation.
yeah.
Well, I think there's a manhole right by Kyle Whitney's house. Right out front of his house, I think there's a manhole there.
The one house I know they did private work, they actually dug down to their trap and vent this summer and repaired it. So I'm assuming they did that on their own just because they were having issues.
No, that wasn't him. He's the house before the cul-de-sac.
Okay,
You know, you had that.
yeah, no, this is about 3 houses in on the downslope side where they rent, he has all the junk cars.
Yeah,
So he fixed his own lateral on his own. And that was a project to watch, the guy dig it out by hand, but they fixed it. And I was wondering if that was because something had moved and he wasn't, when he flushed his toilet, it wasn't getting out.
It's a boat trip?
Huh?
Boat trip? Is that who that is?
I don't know the name.
yeah, I was told that there's a lot of joints that are
Separate.
separated. I don't know whether they're on the laterals, at what point.
Right, that's
But
what
I
we-
know, I drove up there the day after the one heavy rain, and right up where Killian starts, that house with the cinder block wall, I don't know if there's a manhole there.
There's a lateral that sticks out behind that wall,
Well,
where that was like a.
that was like
it's
a
river.
waterfall coming
Yeah.
off of
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, there's a lateral right in the middle of that.
I didn't know if there was a manhole right there or not, because there was probably 3 or 4 inches of water in it. But it was pouring.
It comes off that hill there.
It's a lot of water, that's all I can tell you, it's a lot. So anyway, I just wanted to make sure everyone has that. As we have in that report, I think we do have to ratify the action to purchase the lateral camera at a cost not to exceed $7,500. I know we have final numbers on it now. I can
I'll make that motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
And I think, you know, just an update there, chapter 94 report was submitted, I copied to you for that, Rich, they were submitted to DEP, so they have that. Everything else, like I said, we're working on the pump station improvements project and also the treatment plant improvements project. So we have plenty of work to do, that's all I can say. And we have sewer issues that's on top of it, which we will get done. anyone has any questions with my report.
I'll make a motion, we accept these bills.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Managers?
Just a reminder, if you haven't sent me your statement of financial interest, please do so. All right, perfect, you can hand it on to me right now, sir, I'll take. Oh,
I separated it out, I will get this done for you.
Okay, that's
and I will
perfect,
do
just
that.
scan it and send it in to me, that's perfect. Just make sure I have those, they are due one May, we've been trying to get my 31 March, just trying to get ahead of the game and making sure we have everything, gives us a little time to catch up.
I'll make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Aye.
Let's go back to court.